remember a time when Republicans were very careful about and worried about the government, particularly unelected people.
We can't trust our government anymore.
Having access to personal data.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You are the government.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, is that...
It starts with a simple question and ends in objective reality. Through our journey from there to here, we find one another and ourselves. And as the next 24 hours breaks free from our last, we gaze onward in reflection of the day.
Come to your own conclusions. Stay vigilant.
Welcome to the Daily Wrap-Up.
Tuesday, January 13th, 2026. Thank you for joining me today. A lot to cover, plenty to get into today, but I'm going to choose to focus on largely three main topics. Before we get into everything today, I just want to point something out that I was discussing on A and Wake Up today, and really just to sort of apologize for those that continue to support this platform, and we couldn't exist without you, for kind of a less content recently. This topic more than usual. I mean, let's start with this, that I've pointed out over the years that, at least from my perspective, I feel that one reason I'm good at this job is because I'm able to compartmentalize. I'm able to cover these terrible things like a genocide and then be able to still exist within my life without constantly reflecting on all these terrible things and find time for myself and enjoy my family and my hobbies. And there's occasionally topics that sit with you, right? And topics that really just, that doesn't happen with, or that they just linger, or, and we all deal with that. But this topic around the shooting of Renee Good is something that really, there's been a lot of these, like I called a breaking point today. And I really think that Epstein was one of them. And I think we're seeing these continue to topple what was already beginning to fall over. But there's something especially dark about what this just was. And like I've said before, I think we all can acknowledge that there's a huge presence of just manipulated content, bots, fake imagery, all sorts of stuff that exists clearly. But at the same time, I confront people that I see around me, or people that I know that are, that I can attest to my own personal life are not part of some network, are not manipulative, just, that are what I would argue honest people, even if I strongly disagree with what they see things as or their moral stance, but are saying what they truly believe is my point. And I see far too many of them and it's not even about what you think actually happened, despite that being self-evident. It's very clear what went down. We'll go over some of that again today around, what crimes she might've been committing and what they would, regardless what they did being a crime. But that ultimately the sort of response that I'm seeing of, screw that CUNT, she deserved what she got, from people that I never would have expected, people that frankly changed the way I look at them for the rest of my life. And it's not about the political content, or even it's the response regardless, that just shows you something about people. And it's something that I think is starting to bother a lot of Americans. And I still would like to believe that that's nowhere near to the majority of people in this conversation in the entire country. I don't believe that. I believe that, and on top of all that, okay, hope you can still hear me. Who knows? I'll in a second. If my video out, I hope yours didn't. Hope that doesn't continue to happen. But anyway, the point was simply just that, it sits with you. And the point was, on top of that, that I think that there's a secondary agenda to make us feel that way, to make us doubt that the rest of people in our society, humanity, to make us doubt their the nature, or rather to think that they're bad, to undermine. So the other half, or the other side, or whatever they want to dehumanize, wherever they reside, it's just one quick shove away from going, yeah, they deserve that. Yeah, that group is really bad and disgusting. Yeah, their ideas just aren't allowed, except freedom of speech and freedom of ideology, except that group and these people. And if you wear that shirt, it's obvious that this is the partisan game left and right. And my starting point is simply, it bothered me. And it made me doubt, right? There was a level of self-doubt, of just doubting the larger point. As I've always pointed out, we all have those moments. It's about how you continue. It's about how you get back up on the horse, whatever Okay, now we're back. It looks like we actually got cut off. This is absurd. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Let me know if you guys are seeing this or if something's going on. I'm going to go forward regardless. My video keeps glitching out. We're just getting started. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out and say that's why I've been dealing with some just kind of reluctance to just take a minute and not emotionally respond to what's going on, right? So thank you. Yeah. Yeah, so that looks like apparently my internet's going up and down. It's just, yeah. So, I guess who knows if you heard anything I was saying there to open. I hope you did, because it was something that was, genuine and about how I'm feeling about what's been going on and why I'm reluctant and different things. But at the end of the day, determined to continue regardless of your moments of doubt because of what's going on and how dark it can get and how bad people can be, even genuine, real people. But I figured out a workaround with the audio. I have this plugged in. Let me know if the audio sounds off at all. I'm believing it should be okay. But the point would be that I have this kind of routed through my soundboard with a speaker. That's how I'm able to get rid of the headphones. Hopefully I don't have an issue with Firefox, because ultimately right now that seems to be the only thing I'm able to use. And on top of that, it looks like today we're having up and down internet issues. Let's keep going regardless, because what else are we going to do? But a lot to talk about today. Like I said, main 3 topics we're going to get into. It's going to be there's also some opening partisan things I think are relevant to the larger parts of the conversation. But ultimately, I want to start with the point about ICE and Renee Good, and not just the overview of the story, which we've already covered. I argue what I said on the very first day we covered this is still stands today, and the evidence has only backed that up. But going over what this has changed and the current reality of it, and the hypocrisy around it, and showing you, which I think is clear that most people, even conservatives, are not okay with the way this is going, which is something that nobody wants to engage with, it seems. And I think that's one of the most important things for us to engage with, especially because I feel, again, like I said, if you heard it at the beginning, there's an agenda to make us doubt that, to make us think that it's already so far gone, there's no point. Most Americans are, I don't believe that's ever the case. We're also going to talk about Iran and the regime change taking place again, very transparently, lies about protests, lies about people being killed, that are being even forcing corporate media to delete their content because it's being shown to be based on nothing but Israeli intelligence. It's wild that it continues, and they not fall for the same traps, just go through the same dishonest routines, even though they act like they're fighting left and right. But of course, on top of that, sure, okay, good, missed that. On top of that, I want to get into a part about the overlap of Venezuela and different elements that play into all of this. And you'll see how this all fits together. I think it's very clear, but thank you for tuning in today. Let's get into a lot of important conversation. But let me know if there's any issue as we go through. Let me know in the chat. I imagine there might be, but still let me know. It seems like it's happening constantly. Now, before we get into everything as well, I want to shout out an upcoming event that we are having. Derek and I'll play the thing that Derek put out recently, and I added it to the main campaign. He did a really great job on it. Derek and I are going to be doing a joint fundraiser on the 16th. If you remember the way we did it last time, it's sort of going to be a kind of free-for-all, invite everybody. It's been, pretty much an open invite. And if you have, I'm not necessarily out there giving it to every person. I've sent it to a lot of people that I can think of. But if you're out there and we've talked in the past and you want to join, reach out to me. It's going to be pretty much an open invite with the link I can give to people. They won't be shared around. It's going to be an invite-only link, but to where people will just be popping in for the hours that we're doing it. And it turned out to be really, really cool last time. We had people people I never would have expected, people that I hadn't known that well. And since then we've gotten much more close, that I wasn't aware how much our work had impacted them. And it was a really great kind of ongoing kind of roundtable of people coming and going. And times we had like 20 people in the room. It was crazy. So at this point, we've already invited like 50 people. Who's to know who's going to show up? Maybe none, maybe all, who's to say? But the point is that we're going to be doing our own stuff throughout that. We're going to be talking about current events, just having conversations with who pops in, maybe just Derek and I. We'll be discussing upcoming events, just kind of demonstrating what the donations will be going toward, new investigations. Derek has all sorts of stuff planned in that regard. We're going to be giving away different things like last time, signed microphones, signed books. Even Zoe reached out and said she'll sign a copy of her book and a electronic version as well that we'll be giving away. And as, seeds from our garden, all sorts of stuff that we're going to be using, more that'll just happen on, and people may come and donate things to be given away. And the way that's going to work, like we did last time, I'll show you next, or just right here, it'll be going through this new Give, Send, Go for this one campaign. Now, you can donate wherever you want, directly to Derek if that's what you want, directly to TLAV, that's what you want, but only going through this, which honestly, that's awesome. We already have 165 on there. This is where Derek and I will be splitting this down the middle between our two platforms. And that's how it's going to work, because that's just the best way to do it. And on top of that, when you donate in here, that's how we'll be giving things away. And we'll announce it once we start. Unfortunately, for those that already did it, it's what the prizes will be given once we start. And it'll be like the first one to donate $100, or the first 10 people to give 25, and we'll have things to give away. Or first person to give 1,000 gets, last year I was giving away a guitar, for example, and we'll be sending those out. And so it's really just an effort, and I'll play this clip from Derek that makes it very clear, to raise funds for this new coming year at a time when it seems almost everybody we know are dealing with, rugs being pulled. I experienced that myself. Different people we know, which I'll let them, I'm not going to air people's, background information, but where they had funding that was just recently given, and then like a month later, it gets pulled back. And maybe that's because they got theirs pulled back. I feel like this is a tightening window for the genuine independent media. And it's just new, false, not independent is just absorbing the market as these things get pushed away. And I think that's how it's designed, right? Now, it'll be a StreamYard link, but reach out to me if you're out there and you want to join. It's not going to be just for anybody everywhere. Just remember that. It's going to be people that we've worked with in the past, interviewed, had discussions with, largely people in the field. But, if you know me personally and you want to join, and reach out to me. I'll let you know if that's possible. But overall, I think it'll be a good event, just entertaining. We'll be having a lot of conversations, a lot of current events, and just live, who knows what'll happen kind of things. So I'm going to play a clip that Derek put out that I really appreciate. I'll include both these links. If you want to donate ahead of time, feel free. And here's what Derek posted, and I'll play this. I think he does a good job just explaining the overall discussion.
Friends, this is Derek Bros with the Conscious Resistance Network, and I just want to let you know real quick that myself and my buddy Ryan Cristian of the Last American Vagabond, we are going to be hosting a crowdfunding campaign, a fundraiser, this Friday, January 16th at 12 p.m. Central. The idea is to go live for 2, 3, maybe 4 hours, and to have some guests join us as we try to raise as much money as we can.
I'll probably go longer than that just because, but it's up in the air how long we'll go.
For 2026, because let me be real with you guys, TLAV and the Conscious Resistance, we are not doing well financially. And unfortunately, it's not just us. A lot of people in independent media are barely hanging on, and some have already had to hang up their hats and move on. And I don't want that to happen. I've been involved in independent media for 16 years now, and Ryan for another 10 years himself. And I've been working with Ryan going on 6 years since May 2020. And thankfully, gratefully, over the last few years, Ryan has been able to pay me on a monthly basis to write articles, and he's continued to do his infamous 3 to 4 hour live streams breaking down the daily propaganda. But unfortunately, Ryan is not able to sustain himself because he's been under attack from lawsuits. I have not been able to sustain myself, not only because TLAV is not getting as much support as I think it deserves, but also I'm not getting the support I think I deserve for my work individually. So we are coming together and asking everybody out there who listens to our content, our work. Between the two of us, between our YouTubes and our Facebooks and Twitter and email list and Telegrams and all that stuff, we easily have more than 200,000 to 300,000 followers, and we're easily reaching 500,000 to 1 million people, depending on the views of the particular video or article that we're doing, not to mention doing interviews and things like that. If even just 1% of those people, 5% of those people who follow us and support us donated $15, we would be able to fund our operation for the entire 2026. So we're aiming to raise at least $50,000. And I know that seems like a lot of money, but it's not much compared to the corporate media or the mainstream alternative media, the folks over there who get their $7,000 checks to push propaganda into your face, or the people who just want to spread division and hate. Where myself, and I know Ryan, we're not only trying to, decipher through the garbage and the propaganda, but also trying to educate our audiences and empower our audiences and provide solutions. That's something I really focus on. So we really do need your support more than ever, guys. If you have never given to our content or, supported us, I want to encourage you to do so. Again, think about this as an investment. This isn't just a donation where you give us some money and you don't get anything out of it. You invest in my work and you're going to get different article investigations. We're talking about doing documentaries, and we also will be giving away certain prizes. So we're talking about having signed copies of my books. I think Ryan's going to be giving away some of his musical instruments and some of his recording equipment. We're going to come up with a lot of fun ideas. And so I want to invite you to come tune in Friday, January 16th, 12 p.m. Central. We're going to invite our different friends from the independent media to show up and come hang out and talk with us and share their ideas and tell us why they think our work is worth supporting. But overall, I just hope those of you out there who have been supporting me or Ryan independently will come together now and see that we need your funds more than ever. That's the plain and simple. Yes, we need your shares, we need your eyeballs, we need your ears, we need your attention. But if you want us to be able to continue to do this, we really need financial support right now to be able to make it through 2026. And I hope that we can raise the $50,000 while we're live that day. That would be amazing. But if not, we're going to leave the campaign up for a week or so, and we're just going to let it run. And if you can give when you can, we're going to do our best. We're not going to go away either way, but it would make our lives so much more easy so we could focus on producing quality content and doing the unbiased investigative journalism that I know that you have come to expect from us. So thanks to everybody who continues to give to me. Thank you to Ryan for continuing to work with me. Looking forward to this fundraising live stream Friday, 12 p.m. Central, guys. And until next time, till Friday, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free.
Outstanding. Now, two things to point out. Like he said, we're not going to stop doing this. And that's a main difference in all of this. It's not like it's contingent on, like we'll make, Derek's been doing this longer than me. He'll do, and he's shown this, it's been different over the, like where we started, where we are now, both of us, and the point would be that we're going to continue to find a way to do this because we believe in it, period. And that's not going to change. But, or rather a second point to make is that what my goal, at least, and we're both in the same vein with this, because we both clearly have discussed that I don't want to be asking for things all the time. And you guys know I hate this. I hate the marketing side of it. I don't even like promoting myself. It's about the work. It's about the information. So my goal in all of this is to, and although I think we've seen that our platform has continued to grow, and every time it gets another foot, another stand, some level of stability, something kicks a leg out. That's by design. I think that's very, very clear. The point of this is to try to raise money to establish a ground level to where we can, I guess wrong term, just another level to where we can then build to where we don't have to do this anymore. That's the ultimate goal. I don't want this to be a continual, we'll always be a people-funded dynamic, right? That's the idea. But to get to a place to where it's not contingent on the moment-to-moment funding, or to create other ways that we can continue to do this consistently. That's really the point. So help us reach that, guys. If we believe in this, we're going to get there together. And again, if you don't want to donate, that's okay. I get that. We'll continue doing this either way because we believe in you. We believe in the information. So let's get into some partisan stuff. Speaking of that, because really one of the largest problems in all this is that the partisan game absorbs so much attention, absorbs so much. There are, like I said, honest people who in many cases don't even really agree with the left-right paradigm, but still find themselves absorbed into it, because if you're not really deep in a lot of this, that feels like the only conversation. Like the whole game of, well, if you got to watch both channels to make sure you get the full picture, that's still even sort of stated by people. And it shows you that blindness to the reality of that being 2% of the whole picture. It's Plato's cave, right? We don't even realize that we're not seeing everything that's going on. So Massey simply highlighting some hypocrisy that is everywhere you look, in every part of the conversation. And that's why I'm always making that point, that if you can see that it's so deliberately dishonest, and yet the crowd just follows along with the evolution of the new narrative despite being caught. That's why I played that clip from Nome. Well, actually, I didn't play that one. We'll get into the clip of her lying about what happened in regard to the ICE shooting. They were surrounded and they, had to respond. She lied, guys. She just flatly lied about that because that's what they were going to sell. They decided to go with something else because everyone can see the video, and they just move forward with that. So as Massey says, gaslighting. It's fentanyl to cocaine, right? Oh, wait, no, it's just drugs in general. Now it's oil instead. It's at sea to boots on the ground, right? The evolution of it, rather, you could call it mission creep, if you will. It's an arrest to an attack. Free elections to anyone who serves us. right? That's my point about Gonzalez. You can't tell us he's the president, or like Guaido, for example, which both happened, and then just drop him the moment that your interests no longer align. Then you don't really care, and you never really did about who was in. And Gonzalez is not even actually the one who really got elected. On top of that, it's just Venezuela to any country we choose. Mexico, Colombia, Cuba. Let's just make it a who's who. Trump is just carrying out the wet dream list of neocon, globalist technocrats, Zionists in the world. Those are not buzz terms. Those are very specific terms with definitions. All of those are represented in what we're talking about. Now, you could argue that some of them are, Lindsey Graham and the rest. Well, it's hard. Ultimately, it's clear their agenda is about collecting power at the top to be able to control the agenda everywhere else they can. You can call that globalism. You can clearly see that in a technocratic lens. You can clearly see that Zionism is just an extension of all of these things. So it's very important to see how these things all connect. And it's not always just about this. It's just where these things are pointing to right now. And it's like, remember when we were dealing with the COVID-19 story? Still very important, by the way. And when we were talking about that 6 months in, you're still talking about COVID-19? Is that all you ever talk about? Well, if you care to look at our work going back a long way, more than 10 years, in fact, you see that there was plenty of different conversations. That was just what was in the spotlight. That was what was very relevant, and it connected to a lot of stuff. Same thing now. And you'll always get those screaming people going, oh, you just obsessed with Israel. Well, no, I'm obsessed with what's important. I'm obsessed with what the truth points to. I'm obsessed with people murdering children for no reason. That's where this ends up being, right? And so think about that. These things are what is happening. You just have to open your eyes to it. And of course, I could be wrong, obviously, right? Don't just assume that I'm right. Look at what I'm pointing to and recognize that it is very clear. Now, Trump and the rest are coming out with stuff like this. I've used the word desperate quite a lot in this administration, but I believe it's only gotten more clear. If right now your only response is to just follow along, literally writing trust the plan, which is also just obviously Q, and everyone's been pointing out that both the Labor account and the White House account and all over, they've just been throwing out Q slop everywhere. Because what else are you going to do? You know that's a core problem, or rather a core, I think they do see, it's clearly something that they don't really want to be associated with, but they know that it drives a huge portion of their core. So they lean into it. He writes, trust the plan, and the account writes, or they post the meme, trust the plan, trust Trump. Literally what it says. And of course, I point to the same example of this famous Republican to announce that there must be no criticism of the president, or to say that we must stand by them, right or wrong, to trust them, to trust Trump. That is, as they write, or he writes, Roosevelt is not only unpatriotic and servile, but is morally treasonable to the American people. Now, that's not to say that we should blindly like and trust everything he ever said. That would be a dumb thing to assume. It's the statement that's correct. It is correct regardless of who said it. And I wrote, when they are so transparently trying to tap into the Q psyop, they are desperate. Trust the plan? Seriously? Why would any American ever trust any politician? And I mean that. Theodore Roosevelt called that very act morally treasonable to the American people. They're just trying to get you to follow along. And if you can't see by now that that's not in the American interest, I don't know what you're looking at. High Impact Flicks put this out. And now I want to be clear about my perspective. And we've talked about this, he and I think he's probably on the same boat, but I won't speak for him. I'm hoping he'll drop by. He's one of the ones that said he would join if he has time on the fundraiser. But so he puts this meme out that says, loyal party bootlickers. No principles, just obedience. On the one side, it shows the Democrats, my party is never wrong, licking a boot. On the right, it shows my party's always right, with the Republican licking the boot. Hypocrisy is their only consistency. Now, 100% agree with that in the category of team sport politics. Now, it varies. It's varying degrees the more you get away from that. But I want to make it clear that I do not believe that every conservative or every liberal is in fact doing that. I think it's clearly the Democrat-Republican team sport game, which is very prominent, but I don't believe represents the majority of either of those sides. I could definitely be wrong. I don't know how you could even prove that today. Mainstream is the only place you get that perception. But recognize that this is important because that is what you're seeing in the main conversation, that they are just blind support. That's why the term team sport politics is important. It's like you're watching a football game and he didn't actually get in the end zone, but you're hoping the ref rules for you anyway. That's what they're doing with life and death situations. It's important. And as he says, if this isn't an accurate depiction of what's really going on, I don't know what is. I agree. Now, you might have seen this. I guess it's apparently the circulating point that this is maybe AI. Nope, it's not AI, and maybe would be a reason to look further, wouldn't it? Republicans against Trump says Tucker Carlson has publicly rallied against removing Maduro. He's publicly rallied about a lot that Trump is doing right now, claiming it was a global homo plot. Which, by the way, aside from the second part, global, right? It is becoming very clear to people paying attention that what Trump is doing is straight up a globalist idea, whether he knows that or not. It's the definition of what he's doing in the sense of what the meaning is. The one world policy, government, that's what they're guiding towards. They're absorbing and absorbing. I mean, what else do you call this? And so he has been calling these things out. Then yesterday, this was on the 9th, he showed up at Trump's meeting with oil executives discussing Venezuela's oil. And here's what he was doing. There he is clapping. Now, look, you can argue that he's just there as a journalist. That's possible, right? But it's just the presence alone. And this is not really a journalistic event. And I mean, it is anything at the White House can be, but he's out there, he's smiling, clapping. At the end of the day, it's not just this clip. I think you can see a lot of examples of people like this that say one thing and then really, when it matters, are still involved, still on the inside. Oh, and this is just another clip from Republicans against Trump. Ian Smith, Trump to interview BlackRock's Rick Ryder for Fed chair position. Now it's not happening. Interview. Derek just did a good clip. I'll show you his article about Venezuela in a minute, going over the BlackRock connection to the whole thing. I mean, it's not just this one example. You can very clearly prove that Larry Fink is, I mean, I could probably even pull that article up, he's an insider in Trump's administration. Yeah, I mean, it's not a secret. It's just not being discussed by the very Republicans who called it out when they breathed close to Biden, right? BlackRock's Larry Fink abruptly becomes part of Trump's inner circle, and it's not because this article says you can see it. And there's all sorts of overlaps. I thought BlackRock was a big problem, and I agree with that. It seemed to only matter when it points at a Democrat for certain people. But I think it's important to recognize that this is a contradiction of what was promised. And as he says, Ian makes a joke, bro is draining the swamp. Bro is draining the swamp. Bro is draining the swamp so hard right now. Just making a joke about it, you know? Now, here's an interesting overlapping point. These are all just scattered points to start. Elon Musk out there deflecting, right? So as all this is happening, this guy is quite literally being caught by his own platform, just lying, just nonstop. In this case, as you can see the actual post here, this was the community note. This is a satirical TikTok creator whose content is not intended to be taken literally. It was somebody making fun of the Somali claims, right? Elon Musk shares that. And so this point is, she says, you get community noted multiple times a day. Do you realize your posts have become jokes? And then he deletes the post. Yeah, that's easy. Just delete and run away, right? Don't acknowledge the fact that you had like 23 million views on a post that was lying about what was really going on. Every day he does this. But you guys probably all know this. I'm trying to hope that anybody who needs to see that can recognize the way they're gaming the conversation. It's very clear on this platform more than anywhere, but it's not just unique to this platform. Here's Benny Johnson. And look, let's be clear. I call out Ilhan Omar. I call it any politician who I believe are all caught up in. I mean, if you point to a politician I think they're all corrupt. I don't need to make it more elaborate than it is. I think it's pretty clear these people are all, I mean, look at their wealth. You can make this point about left and right, but look at their wealth. Look at how dramatically they gain wealth over a small period of time, basically being in debt to now being a millionaire. That's not normal, guys. They're profiteering. Now, you could disagree with me. My point is just to establish that Omar and the rest are, in my opinion, all just about the same. Different obvious wedge issues and focal points, but at the end of the day, I think that's the game. So here's the point. Omar is openly leading a massive left-wing mob against ICE through the streets of Minneapolis. Right. So there's no arguments of this being, these are people protesting. But now, by virtue of them being the left, therefore it's now a violent, racist, terrorist mob. So that is one of the arguments we've been telling you about. The criminalization of simply protesting, as Trump's national security memorandum, simply saying bad things about Trump. Now you've got ICE out there saying you're not allowed to yell contentious things at us or we're going to arrest you. Where are all the honest patriots out there? Where are all the Republicans who claim they support or want to fight for the Constitution as you have people literally burning it down in front of you? So Benny Johnson is out there pointing to protest, whatever you think about them or why they're doing it, as a mob. These people are literally burning this country down. And I'm not talking about the protesters, people that are literally making arguments that being out there is a crime or simply observing ICE is somehow a criminal act. These, whether they know it or not, they are the most anti-American people in this conversation. Very important to see. Now, remember the No Kings protest? And that's right after that's when a lot of this started spinning out. You know why, in my opinion? Because not a single event took place. There was no violence. The large violence took place were because of actions against the protesters. Grok will tell you that. And yet they were screaming about left-wing terrorism violence the entire time, and then nothing. I mean, it's pretty clear that it is a government manipulation. People on all sides of all walks of life can be extremist and can act out violently. And they're just trying to use it all against everybody else. Now, as Massey points out, in regard to the funding. So as all this is going on, yeah, funding keeps going up. They keep spending more. Government keeps growing. They keep contradicting every single promise they make. Yeah, no different than pretty much any administration. There was just a lot more writing on this one, it seems. As he writes, this week, I could save taxpayers $6.9 billion. Think about that, just even divided amongst the Americans, with 3 amendments that he has submitted to cut foreign aid from the spending bill. How much you want to bet none of them actually happen? One saves $3.3 billion from Israel. One saves $2.1 billion from Jordan. Another one saves $1.5 million from Egypt. How much you want to bet they all continue? Is any of that America first? Are you saying that there's not a single thing that Americans would deem that first before it went out to somebody else? If you are, or rather, if you're saying that they should go to them first for any reason, that's not America first. It's just not. Now, this one I think is just funny before we get into the ICE overlap. This one I started with. I simply said, how can any of these morons actually be in control? You have to realize this is not some kind of crafty move. She embarrassed herself like she seems to do every time. I think she might be the dumbest person in this administration. Watch this clip. Oh, that's why. I was going to lose my mind right there. I was like, why is the audio not working? that was me. See, that sometimes it is me. I had it muted. Here we go.
I remember a time when Republicans were very careful about and worried about the government, particularly unelected people.
Well, we can't trust our government anymore.
Having access to personal data.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You are the government.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, we'll play the rest of this, but think about what she just said. Yes, that's what I'm saying. What you said was you can't trust the government. You are the government. And you're saying you can't trust you. Well, yeah, that's actually the truth. That's clearly not what she meant, unless maybe it's just more obvious than I think. And that's just Israel saying, go out there and tell everybody you're lying, dishonest people. I don't believe that, though. I mean, you have to realize how insane this is. What you're dealing with first, what I think, break this down and we'll play the rest of it. What we're dealing with here is an example of the narrative being we're the rebels fighting the deep state. Even though you control every possible, the House, the Senate, and executive, you have all the power you can. So if you're the rebels fighting the deep state, right, then you won, essentially, right? But either way, the idea being that you are the power structure, you are the government. So the idea has to be continued to be framed as we're the resistance, right? We're the ones fighting the evil thing. So once you gain power, you can't keep making that argument. But they really have tried to keep that air going, right? So that's been there, even though it's becoming very obvious. So I think Noam, being the half-wit that they seem to be, comes out and makes the argument because, thinking that, well, yeah, because the government's bad, like they were doing before, and then going, oh, but we are the government, and just going, yes, correct, and just moving forward. It just is painful to watch. I mean, you could consider there's something deeper to it. I think what we're watching is just a reality of them trying to clumsily maintain the narrative that they're the ones fighting the power while they continue to break down this country and are literally the power. Watch it all the way through.
Very careful about and worried about the government, particularly unelected people.
Well, we can't trust our government anymore.
Having access to personal data.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You are the government.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, is that the American people now are saying that we have had our personal information shared and out there in the public.
Now Elon Musk has access to it.
Yeah, but Elon Musk is part of the administration.
Right. Okay. So this is new, right? So Elon Musk is now circling back around. He's technically, as I told you before, never really not been part of the administration. That was ruled in court. So now he's just swinging back around. Doge was never what they promised. We just stopped talking about that, or they did. I continue to scream about it. It was a complete power grab. It was a data grab. They lied about everything. Now, Amy Gleason with that entire thing is now just right back into wearables, digital services like they originally were doing. It was all a big, obvious lie, and they didn't even actually cut money, guys. That was also shown despite all the lies. But her argument is, yes, like I said, just brushing right over the fact that she just made a very foolish statement And the point was about unelected people having access to our data, like a Stephen Miller, by the way, like any number of people, Elon Musk being chief among them. And now it's because he's part of the administration. Like, you have to realize how dumb it is. I mean, I can't even, I'd like to believe this is very clear. But I said I was going to play it through, but I'll stop it. Is that we're talking about a guy who's in the administration. And so her answer to why we should trust him is because he's in the administration. But the point started with that she says you can't trust the government. I just don't even get how her mind works. It seems like she's confusing herself.
That the American people now are saying that we have had our personal information shared and out
But
there
now
in the
Elon
public.
Musk has
Yes.
access to it.
Yeah, but
He said
Elon
he
Musk
does.
is part of the administration that is helping us identify where we can find savings and what we can do. And he has gone through the processes to make sure that he has the authority
You're totally
the president has
comfortable with
granted.
that.
Oh, is that what they did? They asked for authority. I mean, she's just literally making up things. That's simply not what happened. And everybody knows that. Just like everything
And
she
today,
does.
by the work that he's doing by identifying waste, fraud, and abuse. And his information that he has is looking at programs, not focusing on personal data and information.
That's a lie. That's flatly false. And you can prove that 100 times over, including the individuals he brought on that were caught doing that.
Not focusing on it, but he has access to it.
Yep.
We'll be continuing to talk to him about what all he has access to.
Oh, well, that's reassuring, right? Don't worry, guys. We'll continue to ask him what he's looking at. Not like maybe you should be controlling that dynamic as the government, not just going, go ahead, Elon, and we'll touch base from time to time and make sure you have the right thing. I mean, why does anybody feel better about what she's saying? This is continually my point. Unless you're just as dumb as a doornail, that's alarming what she just did. Dishonesty, just deflection over the obvious point, access to personal information that there is no, it's okay because those are crimes. Elon Musk and Israel through the AI dynamic should not have access to everything. They removed the slide information. They're not signing their ethics pledges. These people are not on your side. She's just, I think it speaks for itself.
This audit needs to happen to make sure that we are going through a process that adds integrity back into these programs. And
yeah, like I said, all flash, no substance. You can yell integrity, freedom, liberty, and then go do the opposite. It only convinces blind followers and stupid people. It's just not what's happening. So we can't trust the government anymore. You are the government. Yes, that's like I said. It's just insane, guys. It's a cartoon, as Steve often points out. And as I said again, how can any of these morons actually be in control? I think my point is, like you could probably assess, they're not. I don't even know how it's possible. At the very least, they're in power because somebody else is wanting them there. The same way the U.S. government conducts their power structures all over the world. It's what they just did in Honduras, what they're trying to do in Venezuela. It's what they're doing everywhere. You could consider at least one step further back that somebody's doing it to them. It wouldn't surprise me. So this is the bulwark. And this is one that I was briefly talking about. She lied about this. And you can either acknowledge that or you can hide from it, but there's no air in the conversation because we all can see what happened. Nobody else is carrying what she started with. Just not. And here's how she responds to this. And this is how she originally framed the ICE discussion. And we're going to get into Renee Good and some of the continual points off the last show.
Also been criticized for your comments. The shooting, we should note, was Wednesday at 10:37 a.m. Eastern. Just over 2 hours later, the Department of Homeland Security put out a statement definitively asserting what had happened, defending the ICE agent, accusing Renee Good of domestic terrorism. That's a characterization that you reiterated in a press conference half an hour later. Now, Republican Senator Tom Tillis said, quote, "It was very unusual to have a senior law enforcement official to draw a conclusion about an event where the scene was still being processed."
But really quickly, this is what they always do. Trump did it at the beginning of COVID, right? Just grabbed the microphone, yelled what you wanted to think. It's not unique to Republicans, but they do it every time. And my point again is just Noam and Bondi and Cash are just really bad at it. And Cash did the same thing. He lurched out in front of these things and made himself look stupid by showing you things he wasn't supposed to, in the context of an ongoing investigation to set the narrative. The bullets with the random writing. I mean, this, for all we know, with what we've already seen and how much they've made up, they probably just threw that out there. I'm not saying I know that. I'm just saying think about how often they're getting caught being dishonest. And so here she is again, jumping out and yelling domestic terrorism. And even if everything said was true, how would you allot this to terrorism? It's just the narrative, guys. And I mean, I think, end of the day, it's obvious where this is driving from. And even just from Trump down, it's clear this is about just continue to lie.
Generally speaking, law enforcement would recognize that a life was lost, that families are changed forever, the shooter's life will change forever. We're collecting video. We're trying to assess the situation. Why did you not wait for an investigation before making your comments?
Well, everything that I've said has been proven to be factual.
That's incorrect, but it doesn't change the point, though, does it? I don't even think she grasps that, which is that how could you have known that before, right? I mean, it doesn't matter to them, though. You see, it's just a continual progress, just lie, deflect. That's what they do. And if you think it's unique to Republicans, you're not paying attention.
And the truth. This administration wants to operate in transparency. I have the responsibility as the Secretary of Homeland Security to know this information as soon as possible. Had just been in Minneapolis the day before, had already had conversations with officers on the ground and supervisors, and knew the facts, and decided that the department and the people of this country deserve to know the truth of the situation of what had unfolded in Minneapolis.
It's all incorrect. I mean, you could prove the timing on top of the fact that what she's about to say shows you that she's lying without question. The way she framed it to begin with. Now, let's be clear again. This is not about saying the left in this conversation is the moral one or Tapper's the good one. That's a blind partisan kind of assumption. All of them are dishonest. Some of them just use certain stances to progress their own stance when they can, right? And even if it was about left, the idea should not be that, well, because they're being, doesn't mean they're good. No, it doesn't matter. A lie is a lie. What's correct is correct. The idea that, well, you didn't care when they were doing it, that's a trap. That's designed to stop you from caring about what's going on in the moment.
With all due respect, Secretary, the first thing you said was, quote, what happened was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and rammed them with her vehicle.
I don't even believe they were stuck in the snow. If you can, I mean, the only reason I haven't addressed that is because for all I know, it was happening beforehand off video. But her lie is that they got out of their car and they walked over to her. So the idea that they were surrounding them and they responded to that is not anywhere in the conversation.
That's not what happened. We all saw what happened.
It absolutely is what happened. Those officers had been out in enforcement action. A vehicle had been stuck. They had come to help get that vehicle out. That's when this individual started blocking traffic for minutes and minutes.
You said that the woman attacked them and surrounded them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle.
Blocked the road for a long time. And
oh, okay, block the road. Oh, so that you're adjusting your story. I see. But you're pretending like that means the same thing. And people go with that because they're blind followers. She's just continuing the lie. You didn't say block the road. You said it's obviously a lie, guys. And you can see it on her face.
Was yelling at them and impeding a federal law enforcement investigation. And that's what you need to focus on, Jake, is they were breaking.
That's the only thing you should care about. Not that I got caught lying just now. Just focus on that she did the wrong thing.
The law by impeding and obstructing a law enforcement operation. They were breaking the law already.
We'll get into the reality of if let's just even say that is the truth, that you think that she was breaking the law, even to the level of fleeing and all of that. We'll get into that because there's a valid point you made about the potential risk of the car hitting them and so on. But the point needs to be understood that even if you feel that it was justified in the way they acted, that the government's lying about this like they do about a lot of stuff all the time.
And these officers were doing their due diligence and what their training had prepared them to do to make sure they were handling it appropriately.
Okay, so how can they be doing their due diligence if you just said that they responded to being attacked and that's when they fired? That's how you just started. He said that, you said, yes, that's correct. That's what happened. But now you're telling her they walked out to do the due diligence to make sure she wasn't in 30 seconds, she contradicts her own story. My point, again, is that people will go along. She could stand up there and talk about aliens invading and they'd go, yeah, team sport politics.
You said within hours of her being killed, you said that she was a domestic terrorist. How do you define domestic terrorist?
She weaponized her vehicle to conduct an act of violence against a law enforcement officer and the public. They are doing that.
How can you assert with certainty that she was trying to hurt the officer as opposed to she was trying to flee the scene?
Exactly. Which is obviously what's happening, guys. And you can prove this with the facts. We'll get into this. But even if that's not the case, right? How in the world she can just being a domestic terrorist has an entire meaning, an entire definition. To say that then is simply to set the narrative. Even if she was trying to hit the person, that's not immediately terrorism. That would be a crime. Yes. But you know why this is happening. And this is important to break down just as a core dishonesty point about just trying to frame this for your own political benefit. So here was the one we covered in the last show. ICE kills U.S. citizen. And the other part was the creation of a new world order under the guise of fighting it, like the constant discussion we're having. Crystal Ball adds, the patrol agent tells Ken Klippenstein, and this is just an overlapping point to what she's discussing, that that Cristian Ohm, quote, as they used it, lying her ass off to cover for ICE is sending a message to them that they can, quote, use force and not feel restrained, which is obvious. What we're gonna go over, very clear. Even I mean, we already went over the many times they've already been caught lying about being run over so they could open fire. Or, for example, which you've seen going around, articles from 2014, U.S. border agents intentionally stepped in front of moving vehicles to justify shooting at them. But none of that's considered by team sport politics players. Here is a good breakdown. 3 minutes. This is Tara Setmayer saying, so CBS News decided not to air this 25-year veteran federal agent, pointing out all the ways the ICE agent was in the wrong for shooting Renee Good. It's on its broadcast. I wonder why. Here it is.
No! No! Shame!
As cops, we're responsible for every single round that leaves our weapon.
Eric Ballier is a 25-year career federal agent who most recently oversaw use of force investigations for Homeland Security Investigations, or HSI. We asked him what to make of the tactics used by federal agents in the fatal Minnesota shooting.
In my 25 years, I've done hundreds of vehicle stops. If someone is fleeing, that is not a justification for the use of deadly force.
So quickly, as this, is important, because we went over this in the last show. But what you have to understand is that there's only a couple ways to look at this. And this came up in the morning's discussion with Steve, is that right now, it started with you were trying to run her over, right? You weaponized your vehicle and you tried to run him over. And the reason they have to make that argument, and the reason they've lied about it many times and been caught in court many times just since 2025, which I'll show you again in a minute, is because they need to argue they were threatened so that they could justify shooting. If they were fleeing, which you can prove, by the way, with the evidence at hand, and a court will uphold that if this does go that far, that means you open fire on somebody fleeing. Even though fleeing is a crime, which even Matt Walsh tried to rationalize the other day, it doesn't legally, you can't open fire on somebody fleeing. We'll actually show you a clip of that beginning to become normalized in this country. It's not legally allowed. It's murder. You're trying to kill somebody because they're trying to flee. On top of that, with the circumstances being a mother who lives in the area, who's simply trying to observe a criminal activity that continues to be operated, which is that they're not identifying themselves, they're not giving warrants, and in many cases are arresting and beating up U.S. citizens. In this case, they shot one. You understand that regardless of what else you think is justified, what they're doing every day is illegal. Simply, if you understand the Constitution, if you understand what we all think we're fighting for, they're required to identify themselves. Pointing out who they really are is not doxing. And so they've created this weird kind of cycle, right? But overall, where was I really quickly? I just lost my train of thought. So the fleeing part is that they're there to observe this. Now, people break the law doing that. That's clear to point out. Some of them end up being violent. Some of them are doing things they shouldn't. Let's just even starting that she was blocking the street and stopping them from leaving. That would be, arguably a traffic violation. Even if you want to argue impeding, which is something being so wildly abused and dishonestly, then fine, then charge her with that crime. But why that would ever go to the level that they engaged it with? You're right. And so then realize that she, as we'll show you, had just said, don't worry, bro, I'm not mad at you. Right? Had turned the wheel. You can prove this. And you can even show the guy walking around the car, which, by the way, is not their operating procedure. It's used to justify, as we already shown, plenty of ICE and police officers are pointing this out. Then she turns, right? And then he opens fire, one, and then two more side back as they leave. There's no denying what this is. He wasn't injured. He walked away. They lied about it. Trump literally said he was dragged by the car, said he was in the hospital. Who knows if he's recovering? They're making all of this up. This is so painfully obvious. And maybe I don't even need to be making these points because there's only blind followers that buy it. I don't know. But I do think it's worth it because, like I said, I know people who are actually following this. So I guess I answer my own question, right? But all of that's to say, with this going on, what he's going to get into is the actual operating procedures. We'll play a great clip from Brian, High Impact Flicks again, where he breaks this down. Steve was showing me this morning. And it goes right from their own operating procedures. And it shows you that they're not allowed to get in front of the car, that they're not allowed to go up and grab the door and try to pull you out of the car as ICE. That's a crime for them. At least not, that's illegal in their policies because ultimately they don't have the authority The police would, unless it's immigration or have a warrant. Neither of those applied in this case. They just wanted to stop her because she's bothering them. And this continues to be shown as they push people down or literally say that you are observing and therefore you're impeding. That's a violation of your rights. And they've just allowed this to happen. And now you'll see some videos of them walking up and doing this to people. Didn't you learn from Renee Good? You're not allowed to observe us. Trump even says it was about being disrespectful to authority. The guy, moment by moment, I'm telling you, this line's being so starkly divided between anybody honest and people who just want to be on the team. Let's continue.
In this moment, the officer crosses in front of the vehicle. He opens fire on the driver, 37-year-old Renee Good. The government says the officer shot the driver in self-defense.
She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle, and she attempted to run a law enforcement officer over.
But the footage tells a different story. In this clip, we see Good waving cars by, and one car drives past her stopped vehicle.
Like they're somewhat impeding the ICE guys, although you did see the SUV drive around them.
Next, officers exit the car and approach Good's vehicle.
Right out of the gate, it's escalatory in nature. And then the agent with the black mask reaches for the driver's side door handle to try to open it. From the video, like the reverse lights are on.
From this
Right. So she's backing up, first of all. So that's clear. Then she turns. But recognize, what authority, in what world have we ever seen police allowed to just run up and pull your door open? Their rights, even in regard to your car, guys, search and seizure. There are very constitutional rights that the right pretends they're fighting for in this case. And I mean about team sport politics, obviously, not people who are calling it out. So the idea that you just runs up and tries to open your car shows you a level of perceived authority that supersedes the constitutional rights. So I mean, there's no way around this, guys. Look, on top of that, let's make this even more clear in regard to the threat. It's obvious if you're there and she's observing them, it's clear that she's aware of their authorities. But if they're not walking up going, here's my warrant, here's who I am, here's why I'm doing this, then you have every right to drive away. That's actually the case because there is a legal standard right there. And guys, we've talked about this forever. I mean, you can look at any number of like I mentioned, the Free Thought Project, Jason Bassler, Matt Agarist, and the cop watcher dynamic and the reality of people that will enforce they buy this stuff all the time. It's why when they walk up to your door, people will suggest that you shouldn't open your window all the way and so on, that they have to go through the process. ICE has less authority in this regard than the police do. And yet his first action is to bull rush the door and yank it open. This is about creating that kind of problem and then responding to the problem you create, which we'll get into. This is basically what they've been doing nonstop.
Other video angle, we can see that the officer has already crossed in front of the car.
Mm-hmm.
He's holding a cell phone.
They are trying to essentially take some sort of recording or photograph of the driver to show or identify her as a antagonist to their enforcement operations.
Yeah, and they're really just documenting anybody that gets in their way so you're being put on a list, guys, whether or not you're breaking the law, whether or not you're an American citizen. So on top of that, ask yourself if it's standard operating procedure for you to be holding a cell phone while conducting your firearm, or rather just using your firearm. There's many examples of this, guys. And why is he even filming in the first place?
What he does is cross in front of and stay in front of a occupied running vehicle. You should not be intentionally putting yourself in front of a vehicle unless absolutely necessary. And with a cell phone in his left hand, he draws his pistol with his right hand. And in very quick succession, rattles off 3 rounds.
Under the Department of Homeland Security's use of force policy, firearms may not be discharged solely to disable a moving vehicle, and shooting at a moving vehicle is tightly restricted.
So my training was that you cannot use deadly or lethal force solely to stop a fleeing vehicle. Do you have another option other than pulling the trigger?
The Trump administration maintains the agent opened fire to avoid being run over, but the direction of the tires appears to be facing away from the officer to the right. There is still a dispute as to whether the officer was grazed or struck by.
But see, this is such a non-starter, guys. Let's just say it bumped his leg. He didn't go to the hospital. They claimed this because Trump lied about that. and said that he was, like, I think he even said he was in critical condition, if I remember correctly, but don't cite me on that. He basically said he was in the hospital and insinuated that he might not recover, is what he said. I can't remember exactly the way it was written. It's on True Social. And then the narrative came out that, I mean, you can see the video where he's walking away. He gets in his own car. Okay. Then they said, well, he went to go check out and then left. I don't even believe that, quite frankly. And if they could produce something that proves that, I'd point it out. But even so, your argument is that he brushed his knee and therefore this is just trying to make the case that therefore if you bump him or as he steps in front of your car, which is not what he's supposed to do, that's your responsibility. And you can be murdered in the street for that. It's just such a clown world scenario, guys. And and on top of it, let's not forget, you're talking about Republicans who are spearheading this. The people that are talking about the Constitution. And in many cases, we're screaming about police overreach 30 seconds ago during COVID-19, for example, but now it's okay.
The Honda. He continues to fire even after moving out of the way of the vehicle.
If she is intentionally trying to hit that agent or officer, those tires are pointed in the opposite direction. And the vehicle's trajectory after the shots would be continuing to the left.
After 3 shots, the car veers away.
Oh my God!
According to Ballier, both the officer's gunfire and the car,
by the way, that's him just casually walking over there. I'll play the video where you can hear the comments that were made.
Accelerating could have put agents and the surrounding crowd of bystanders in danger.
I mean, that's a very valid point, guys. You're opening fire on a moving vehicle. That who knows, but that could crash into that house and kill a baby in a career. It could do any. I mean, that's why that's not supposed to be the case. On top of the fact that it's just criminal and disgusting.
These are all factors that law enforcement officers have to weigh before pulling the trigger.
No way. Check this out, guys. God, this is so crazy. Let me see if Rumble's even playing right now. This out, guys. God. Okay, no, it's still there. I mean, this is pretty weird. Check this out. This is just an image that I just got that popped up on my Rumble as that was playing. It says, your Rumble API key is no longer valid. Please delete this destination on StreamYard and create a new one. I mean, let me know if it's still streaming on Rumble. It appears to be. It just never stops, man. It's wild. This is every day something new. But let's continue on this discussion. Let me just refresh this, make sure that's still playing. Every day something. Yeah, it's still going. All right, cool. We'll keep going. It's very weird, man. All right, so, which by the way, we would keep going anyway, but it's important to know what's going and what's changing. Let me know if Rumble somehow stops. That seems like that might be the case if that's actually what just happened. All right, continuing. And remember, CBS decided not to air this. Why? It's very strange. Even Jake Tapper, I was going to say before, there's so many questions and obvious points that could have been made. Well, you're lying, Gnome. You're just literally lying. But obviously they're more tactful. But there's many comments that could have been made, and I just argue that that's not what they do. Bigger story around all this. Adam Cochran, this is where you'll see this video. Says, of course, MAGA's propaganda goons are trying to argue that this video clears the officer. So let's debunk this. Now, there's many examples that have been put out of selectively edited videos, of altered videos, right? If you're looking at his video view, you could argue that it looks like he was hit because he's jumping back and you hear the clutter of the phone, but you can see what actually happened. I mean, you can see that he wasn't injured. And so we'll get into what they ended up sharing, but I'll play this clip first. And he goes, so let's debunk this. It clearly shows he was not dragged, by the way, and that is what they said to start. He escalated and he knew he lacked jurisdiction, and he committed an aggravated murder. First, note how the officer is walking around her vehicle filming. And I'll read the next comments next. I'll play his clip that he shared. So remember, this is the other person filming walks up to the car, and you can hear what she says and the responses around it. Out of the car.
That's fine, dude.
Oh, actually, I take it back. This one is the cop. The other one I'll show you is the other woman that was basically following him. But listen to what she says again, and I'll let it play. This is her. Does this seem like a woman ready to murder this man?
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you.
I'm not mad at That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking veteran. You want to come at us?
Now, clearly, disrespect is not a crime, okay? You could argue cussing or saying, screw you, man. That's what they're pointing to act like it somehow rationalizes this stuff. You have the right to free speech, don't you, Republicans? Did you forget about that? The idea that you have a right to say what you want, especially to people in authority? But apparently not. You can't disrespect the cops. It's just this broken, and it goes back and forth, right? You have this back and forth dynamic between the sides. But I think this was the one I was thinking of, but it's now her behind him, basically. This is the still cop filming.
You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Oh! See, now you could very clearly lie about that and make that look like he was hit. You saw the full. Well, actually, I'll play the full one next, even though we just saw that. Here is the other one. Oh, you know what? I might have not downloaded it. I might have replaced it with the other one. But you saw that one in the first one anyway. Yeah, I think when I re-download these, I use the same numbers when I do, so it just replaces it. But you saw it in the first clip, and this one will show another one as well. The simple point is, it's very clear in regard to the way, we just saw it with the guy breaking it down. They turn, he didn't get hit, he jumps out of the way, he opens fire, and so that is meant being used, it was anyway, to argue that was, cleared him of everything. And on top of that you can see the timing of how he walked around, and it's the violation of their own operating procedure. So here, and then continuing, he writes, Renee is engaged calmly and even says, I'm not mad at you, not angry, not threatening. The officer's filming her and her plates because he knows he lacks jurisdiction to take action here and needs to refer to local PD. Or on top of that, they just will end up harassing these people, which they've done many times. The officer steps out in front of the car against DHS policy, which is true, as Renee goes to reverse and turn away, clearly doing a K-turn and turning the wheel away from the officer. And then again, the person goes, drive, they drive. Okay, then that it keeps getting pointed to as, see, they're criminals. Okay, fine, charge them. That means they knew she was trying to leave and they opened fire anyway. You're making the case for us, by the way. Now, this is the part of the video that MAGA claims proves the officer got hit, but take careful note of two things. First, the officer is back from the car, and while the car is still not in motion, he takes a step forward and to the left, re-engaging the vehicle. It says this matters because of the second angle, which you can see here playing below. The step is when he goes from filming to pointing his gun at her with no reason. The vehicle not yet in motion, he leans forward over the hood, pointing the gun. The impact you hear in the first video is the bullet and his gun against the windshield. So she absolutely does drive forward at this point and clip his gun in hand. But you can see in the video that he's safe and to the side and has drawn on her. She was calmly attempting to drive away. When she was looking behind her, he steps in front of the car, distracted by his filming and ignoring DHS policy. The most generous interpretation would be that his distracted negligence led to sudden decision, but negligence does not defend against negligent homicide. Even once clear of the car, he fires 2 more shots. At the end of it all, the shooter doesn't attempt to chase and secure the scene. Doesn't say anything proving he felt scared or threatened. He just angrily calls her an effing bitch. Now, I think that was the gist of it. You can read the rest of this if you want. I just think it's important to understand that. Now, here's what Eric Dougherty and Elon Musk shared, giving it 18 million more views. Here's what they shared. This very clearly truncated version that starts right when it comes around the car. And you know why that is? Because you see, you miss the, don't worry, dude, I'm not mad at you. Right? You miss the calm nature of it. You miss you miss him getting in front of the car. They literally edited it out to be just what makes it look like what they want you to see. You think that's an accident? It's not. I mean, and they've seen the full versions. Why are they sharing? And why is Elon rising up this one? Yeah, I'm not going to speak to intent. That's my opinion. All right. I'm not going to say I can know for sure, but that's my opinion. What else do you argue? Why would it be selectively edited when the full version was out there? It's clear what's going on, in my opinion. It's cultivating the narrative. Now here, oh wait, you know what? I think that, let me see if I've got that here. I said I was going to play that other one. I thought I had it in the lineup. Let me do this really quickly. I'll just grab the last one. I think the last one he had on there was the one I'm talking about. Right here, I believe. Yeah, that is the one. Let me see if I have that in here. I guess I didn't play it all the way. And so that would be here. Oh, no, that's the longer one. Damn it. I just wanted you to hear, I mean, in case you haven't heard it, I mean, it's been reported on everywhere, but I still do think it's important to hear that. Was it this one? No, all right. I guess I don't have it. I'm not going to waste more time. But the point is that you can hear, and who's to say if it's that guy? But they call her an effing bitch, right? They say that after you just shot somebody. It just shows you the kind of mentality we're dealing with, guys. I do think that's relevant, even if you feel she broke the law. It's a hatred. It's a dehumanization. There's crime. There's accountability for crimes. Rarely to the level of murder or even, direct violence, which, of course, if this was Biden's administration doing it to a person in a red hat, I'm sure they would be framing it differently. Now, this is one of the ones that was shared. And this is my point, guys. Megyn Kelly shared this one. And this says, new release video shows he acted in self-defense. Well, after there's other examples out there, and it's all fuzzy, different angle, and this is altered. It's crazy audio behind it too. You can see it's altered because you can see the real version out there, and the guy like bounces off the top of the car. This is altered. You can see the real version of it, and I included the larger one right up here. Oh, here we go. This is the, not that you need to see it again, but here's the real version, the one that is originally played. Where was it? Right here. It's very easy to see the guy still standing there. He didn't get hurt. Walks after her, and I believe it was him that said that. There's no one else near him, guys. So it's pretty clear to me that Ross called her that name after he just killed her. And then, of course, let's not forget, it's been clearly shown the guy is very clearly a MAGA supporter, a very clearly ideologically driven with what he's talking about, and what do you think? Calling these people domestic terrorists, claiming they're allowing the destruction of what they're doing is creating the justification to take action against them, regardless of whether they're breaking the law. Is that what the Constitution says? Now, as Derek writes, well, first, what Dr. Alex Zeck pointed out, it's probably not a good idea to taunt and mock an armed, angry agent of the state in tactical gear who knows the current administration will side with him if he fails to de-escalate and instead uses unnecessary force. But hey, that's just me. He also says, but it's also absurd that many on the right who called out the COVID tyranny, for the record, he says I did too, are not only totally okay with the increased presence of militarized government agents roaming U.S. streets, violently detaining citizens and illegals alike, they're cheering it on. Really wild. And see, the principal people can point this out. And he says, as if this precedent won't be useful for any future administration, always a valid point, to enforce their political objectives. The left will do it, right? And clearly, hopefully, we're starting to recognize that it's the same damn thing. The boots of tyranny march on. Left, right, left, right, left, right. I agree entirely with what he's saying. Now, I don't believe this is him saying don't do anything. He's just simply saying recognize that it's a dangerous move to go out and taunt and observe, even though it's your right, people who are acting violently belligerently violent. He's right. And Derek adds, personally, I think ICE agents, and I agree with this, should be mocked and called out as authoritarians everywhere they go. But also, I agree, it puts you in harm's way when we are seeing that they can pretty much get away with anything, right? So the point is, you can make those decisions. Recognize that it's obviously in your right to do so. It's obviously probably the right thing to do to make sure people see that. And you could argue whether it's saying to their face or not is in your interest, but recognize they'll probably do something to you. So it's the same kind of logic with work here, or like saying, okay, don't pay your taxes. Well, I would argue when it comes to even a legal sense, there's a point to be made about how the entire IRS is an illegitimate institution. However, they'll enforce it at the end of a gun, right? This is simply the reality. Or doing this work, this is the right thing to do, and I believe it's not just important; it's paramount to continue to do this work. I've suffered for it. Like we all seem to, where you're getting attacked and censored and suppressed and financially manipulated and sued because you're doing the right thing. But see, we'll do it. And so it's your choice. Right? I'm not telling you have to do what I'm doing. You can decide for yourself. So if you believe it's right to make sure you're holding accountable completely illegitimate illegal action, which I think everybody would agree with without being pointed to what that action is, then you should do this. But recognize that they can act in violence against you. So that's what they're both saying. But his point was probably not a good idea to taunt and mock them. Like beyond that, right? Instead of just filming them, but to push back against them verbally or otherwise, right? That's because they will use that. And right now, they're arguing that saying mean things to them. Think about how insane that is, by the way. You know, just like the snowflakes on the left, words are violence. But which is exactly what Cristian Bondi said about using Charlie Kirk's name about hate speech. It's just so blatantly hypocritical, guys. But here, as Nathan Robinson points out, and there we have it. It's not the officer's life was in danger. No, it's just that she disrespected him. For fascists, the punishment for disrespect is death. That's what he wrote. Here's what Trump said.
Deadly force was necessary after watching all the footage of the days that passed. What's your assessment there?
It was highly disrespectful of law enforcement. The woman and her friend were highly disrespectful of law enforcement. You saw that. They were harassing them, were following for days and for hours. And I think, frankly, they're professional agitators.
Yeah, and it just so happened to live right there, right? And the neighbor was there because it's their street. But, you know, let's just keep progressing the thing you know isn't true, right?
And I'd like to find out, and we are going to find out who's paying for it with their brand new sign.
Mark my words. That won't happen because it appears that there's no real financial motive other than watching what they're doing. I certainly could be wrong, but watch as that never comes to pass. And then watch as they keep calling her that anyway. Mark my words.
And all the different things. But these are professional agitators, and law enforcement should...
See, now he went from we're going to find out to they are. Can't we laugh at how dumb that is? You can't. We're going to investigate, but they are because we know. Well, what signs are we talking about? You mean her sitting in her car with her dog because she lives right there? They're playing the stupid out there, guys. That's what's happening.
Not be in a position where they have to put up with this stuff. What that woman and what her friend and what their other friends were doing to law enforcement, not
watching them legally because they're breaking the law. Literally what's happening. And that's not to take a side, guys. I would stand with Republicans or Democrats or people that know it's all ridiculous if they're standing there doing something like that. Even if I disagree with why they're doing it. You have every right to do that. That's why Bennett Johnson's out there calling them protesting a mob because they're undermining, they're destroying everything this country represents.
Just ICE. Law enforcement is outrageous.
Yeah, right. You're not allowed to be disrespectful. He just said that. You can't be disrespectful, except that's literally free speech. That's literally protected by the Constitution. But Trump doesn't care about that. Take the guns first, due process later, right? Can't burn the flag. You're going to go to jail. We don't care. People who say that are stupid people. Yeah, they're also correct, by the way. That is unconstitutional, like so much else he's doing. It's just sad who is willing to call it out and who's not. It shows you who these people are, guys. And it is starting to change. People are starting to call this out. So turn very quickly from he was trying to murder the guy to, well, they're disrespectful, so it's okay to open fire. Here's another example. This is the person saying, have you not learned from the past few days? And then grabs the person's phone, which, by the way, is also a crime. But they don't care because Trump will support them.
Shame on you.
Listen, have y'all not learned from the past couple of days? Have you not learned?
Learned what? What's our lesson here? What do you want us to learn?
Following federal agents.
Give me my phone.
Right. Well, have you not learned that doing something that you can prove is quite literally within your rights is enough to get shot and have your phone stolen from you? Both crimes, by the way. These people are belligerently off the path, guys. You can either be honest about it or you can hide from it. But you know what happens when you hide from it. It gets worse. It's confounding. It's just constant right now. And it's sad because I know too many people out there who are absolutely towing the line. You know, people who, I mean, the obvious major turns of some of these larger creators should make you see what they really are. But there are people out there that I would not have expected it from that are doing it anyway. Maybe because they think they're supposed to, maybe because they think it'll be popular. But it contradicts what they say they're fighting for. So they have no principles. Now, here are some good examples to go over. It just shows you how broken this is, how off the path this and simply illegal. Everything they're doing. Here's an example of a guy on his own doorstep. Now, look, let's be clear, by the way, before we even get into these few examples. We have gone over a nonstop procession of examples of criminal activity, of arresting U.S. citizens, of beating people up for no reason, just criminal activity across the board. That's not to say that there weren't legal actions that were also taken. I don't know why we need to continue to, like, there's an example of them arresting somebody that was supposed to go to jail. That's being praised for your job, not the reality. If you're praising that, it's because you're pretty clearly aware that they're doing a bunch of bad things on top of that. It's about calling out the criminal activity because that's where accountability should be. So in this case, you have an example. My point in saying that is to recognize how much more it is than just this. This guy's on his own doorstep. This happens to be happening right in front of him, and he just simply says things. And watch what they do. Remember, you have constitutional rights. You have rights to be on your own property. You have rights to say what you want. You have rights to film what you want, especially on your own property. You also have the right to not have your door kicked in when there's no justification for it.
They're sitting here raiding the motherfucking house.
Hey, you ain't supposed to smack him like that. The fuck is wrong with you? Hell no, man. I'm on my property. I ain't gotta listen to you. Hey, you ain't got a search warrant. You can't come over here, man. Hey, look, I got you all on camera right now. I'm on my private property. Hold on, man. For what?
I just don't understand why anybody who actually believes in the things that being preserved, like the Constitution, can stand there and watch that and still somehow rationalize that it's okay because he shouldn't have said that or whatever it is. You can't watch things like that and pretend that this is on the right path. There's so many violations right there. That is an unaccountable authoritarian force. Go back in your house. It's scary, guys, because this is real. This is not some joke. It's not some hyperbolic narrative. They're literally doing this. They're going door to door, and they're out trying to hide from that. And this is an example of that, by the way. Vance casually laid that out, and then people act like people are making up that he said that. It's just this like counter narrative and layers of BS covering these things. I think it's by design. So we miss the forest for the trees. This is Jesus freaking Congress is the name of the account. ICE agents in Minneapolis are seen arresting another teenager without verifying his identity. This is happening every single day. And admit this on the camera. In the video, the teenager calmly tells the agents he can go inside and get his ID to prove who he is. The agents refuse. Instead, they say, we'll take him to get pictures at HQ. I'm starting to think that there's a level of profiteering going on around this too. That, well, we'll take him there. We have to spend money and processes and then we increase our budget. I mean, who's to say? Why would they waste time how many examples do we have of people going, look, I'm a U.S. citizen. My ID's in the house, and they just don't care. Why would that happen? I honestly can't even rationalize that, or just incompetence. I don't know. And he says the agents instead refuse, and then they force him into their SUV anyway. Now, I'll read what she said afterward. Here's the clip. Point to make too is this is why people do this. If there wasn't somebody there to watch, then nobody would know that they were breaking the law. You understand? And there's been many examples of these observers catching them on camera, faking a warrant, pretending they've got one. And the guy go, look, that's not even signed. There's not even an address on there. And they walk away. These people are consciously being dishonest, guys. Maybe because they think they have an ideological motive that supersedes the law. Maybe because they just don't care. Maybe because they're making money, but they're being dishonest. So recognize why it's important to do this. And it is within your rights.
No voy a entrar a tu casa. Okay, you can wait me here. I will go. Pero fácilmente no vas a regresar. Vamos a checar. No. Ay, wait. Stay back, please.
That's the whistle over here, because that's what they're doing. That's people blowing the whistles to get attention. Pay attention. They're breaking the law. Look at all the filming, guys. I mean, this is what needs to happen. The more people that are doing it, the harder it is for them to do it. That's not a crime. And what's wild to me is that you've got so many Republicans out there who are, look at them all, look at them impeding. And these are the same people who pretend to care about the Constitution. It's not about whether you agree with what they're doing or whether you think it's justified. It's that they have the right. End of conversation. Now, that doesn't mean to go up and punch them. It doesn't mean to even, I mean, you could even argue that there's somehow, you're not allowed to get too close to them. I mean, there's a conversation to be had about whether you're, I mean, look, like Alex said, just that's the best way to look at it. There's no point in trying to, it's not smart to go up there and push the issue, to get too close or to taunt them. I think that's not smart. But being there filming at your distance is important. And that's what they're most upset about, because they continue to be caught breaking the law. And by the way, guys, cops are being caught breaking the law every which way before all of this. So it's not really even unique in that way. It's just that it's become much more prominent and much more, it's become the national police force. And see, the simple point is, you cannot seize a person to check who they are, which is what they're doing. If the government can forcibly detain someone simply to identify them, that's not law enforcement. That's unlawful detention. But apparently the law doesn't matter when you pretend it's about immigration. Jim Stewart points out the video the White House put out. I'll watch it all the way through. It's only 30 seconds. It says, this is a weird video. Why? Because it mostly shows people who are simply exercising their First Amendment rights. People standing there talking and they get shot in the face with tear gas. This is the point. They are now claiming that you saying the wrong thing is a justifiable action to respond to. You're the left, guys. You are the snowflakes, the broflakes. You're all the same thing if you think this is justified. Just a different flavor. I'm going to address that in a second, by the way, the statement. But again, free speech. It does matter, guys. Obviously, not only, it matters unless you're saying mean things about Charlie Kirk, right? It matters unless you're doing X, Y, and Z. No, you have free speech, period. But I'll address what we all know that genuinely means. And yes, maybe some of them are belligerent and actually going to do something. But the point is about all of the people doing in this video are simply standing there saying things or speaking, or most of them anyway. Now, and that even people acting like crossing a line, for example, that aren't even necessarily violent, the actions they take against people out there doing things like this tend to be wildly over the top anyway. But the point is, most of them are simply just saying things.
Here when they hear the mayor of their city can you pull behind
mean words? Yeah, demonstrating mean words. What they want you to do is hate the people, to pretend that everybody on this one side is all belligerent maniac. Regardless, even if you think that, they have a right to say what they want.
behind them. It's ICE. They're trying to kidnap people. Please pull behind them.
Shame on you! The president stands with ICE. I stand with ICE. We stand with all of our law enforcement officers.
Even if they kill somebody, even if they break the law, they literally just came out and said they have immunity. Ross has immunity, which is not true. If what they're saying is the president's going to give him a pardon no matter what you do, then it kind of is true. It just shows you how completely illegitimate they are right now. But they don't just have immunity. That's not how that works. There's accountability. And as always, there should be even more accountability for people in those positions. Why would it be the opposite? It only leads to more, abuse of power, which is what we're actually seeing right now. So the point about Kristi Noem, when they're saying, if you didn't hear it, what was it? Kristi Noem will hang. Okay. You could argue that means we're going to go break into her house and kill her. I think we all know that's not what it actually means. Maybe individuals might have that mindset, but let's go through a couple of examples. And it's not to say the point is free speech. You can say whatever you want. And of course, they try to make lines fire in a theater and all that. It's always been a manipulation of the reality of actual free speech. You're accountable for your actions. Your words are simply words. With the right and people like Ben Shapiro, they were really saying that back in the day when it was only a one-sided thing. Now they're the ones trying to shut down people's speech. But the point here, these are just random examples online. But as we all know, we've seen people at the highest levels of the conversation talk about treason, talk about people. We know the crime. We know the penalty for treason, don't we? Trump, many of them, haven't they? Here's just a couple of examples. Do you agree with this shirt? Hang Biden for treason. Okay, well, is she literally going, I'm going to kick his door in right now and murder the guy? Or is she saying that charge him for treason because they're all criminals and that would be the crime for it? Now, even that you could argue, if you think words are violence, that could lead to the level of a threat against a politician. But this is about a sentiment of these people have violated this country. These people have sold out Americans, left and right, if you're paying attention. And so the argument is that's treason. I'm not calling for violence. I think the wrong path is to continue to commit violence. But there are people who simply go treason, hang them. That's the crime, right? Hang them on the White House lawn. That's what people say. Here's another example. This person, I'll show you another example as well. Mr. President, I believe you're guilty of treason and should be publicly hung. That's 337,000 views. Here's another one from him. It says Biden. Oh, wait, that's this one, I think. Oh, wait, where was that? Maybe I closed it. Well, anyway, this is another example just to get through them. Biden holdover, no surprise, to the gallows for his treason. And he goes, there's so many I hope will get placed inside one of these. And these are just random people, not a lot of engagement. The point is that it's obviously a sentiment that circulates on both sides of the paradigm, that guy's the criminal, therefore he should be held, charged for the crime, which you could argue in many cases amounts to that kind of accountability. So, or there's another example. All these traitors that change our votes to Biden will hang high. Okay. So if the argument is them chanting hang Noam is therefore indicative of they're all terrorists, well, then that goes both ways, doesn't it? It's the same thing we see every time. The partisan game is belligerent. And some of these highest level people will call for, look at James Woods and look at the rest of them. They're calling for absolute violence in many examples. It's free speech. I believe, you could argue there that maybe you believe that should be a crime, simply saying things out loud that threaten people. I just disagree. I think actions are where the crime is. And any moment that you overlap that with words being it, then you have broken the reality of free speech. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you disagree. So I think the reality though is what they're doing now is trying to create that sentiment, right? And it's clearly all over the place. Now, Brian does a great job breaking down what ICE is literally, what their actual procedures are, what the law says they're able to do. Now, I'll play some of this. We watched some of it this morning with AM Wake Up. And I simply said, Brian breaks down the reality of what ICE can and can't do. Guess what? They're breaking the law.
I'm Brian. Welcome back to the Disturbing Illusion channel. And before we talk about ICE and the possibility of having standing armies on American soil, implementing Palantir level techno bro police and surveillance grids and networks in the name of nabbing the illegals, let's talk about what this guy just said, because apparently he can't be bothered with taking down massive blackmail pedo trafficking rings that are fully operational today, but apparently he can invade Venezuela, and he's also now talking about taking Greenland.
We don't take Greenland, Russia or China will.
And we'll come back to that. I'm not going to address it right now, but in a minute we'll go to that point because there's some very important things to overlap it with and not just the usual.
And I'm not letting that happen. If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will take Greenland. And I am not going to let that happen.
Here's an idea, and here's how you can get Trump to back off of Greenland and march troops out of Venezuela like that. You just rename both places the Epstein client list. He'll then declare both places, Venezuela and Greenland, to be Democrat hoaxes, and he won't touch them with a 10-foot stripper pole. Here's the thing about Greenland. It's already protected by NATO because it's a territory of Denmark. And under Article 5 of the treaty, if any country attacks Greenland, including China or Russia, an attack on Greenland would be seen as an attack on all NATO members. So what the frick is Trump talking about? But I know, according to his followers, if the Orange Messiah said it, then it must be legit. And speaking of legit, we have a legitimately huge problem on American soil under the guise of, hey, we got to nab the immigrants and get them out of the country, because what's being set up right now, what looks like it's being set up, is a Palantir-style techno-bro police surveillance and control grid, all under the guise of immigration. You got to understand, ICE is not a police force. It's an immigration agency. It's not general law enforcement. So they can't just stop a vehicle or ask you questions or go into your house for no reason. They can only stop a vehicle if they have reasonable suspicion of an immigration violation or an official warrant. They cannot conduct random stops. That's beyond their jurisdiction. And for local law enforcement to allow this is for them to abdicate their own perceived authority. There are detention rules. They can only detain if, number one, there's reasonable suspicion of being undocumented or a valid immigration warrant. They can't just detain U.S. citizens. And oh, by the way, you have the First Amendment right called freedom of the press. So you can record your government officials in the normal course of their duties. You have the right, the unalienable right to record them. And if they come at you trying to threaten you and violate your rights, you can know that they're acting as the tyrants the founding fathers warned us about. Now, you might ask yourself, what would a threat like this look like coming from an ICE agent? Well, here you go.
Have your plate number. We saw you driving erratically, very dangerous to the public.
How you doing?
Good, how about you?
You're interfering with our operations.
Not
You
at
could be arrested
Not at
under
all.
18
Stop
USC
doing that.
111.
Nope, not
We will
not
arrest
your
you.
turn. Not if
You
you're
have
not
been interfering with our operations.
You were following us yesterday.
Numerous
Watch
times.
what you're doing, dude.
Numerous times you've
Not
been interfering with our operations.
Not interfering.
Yes, you are.
No, I am not.
If you
Never
continue,
got in front of you.
you will be in handcuffs. You will be arrested. You will be
18
prosecuted.
U.S. Code 111. Get that through your head, dude.
As Steve points out this morning, if you look into both of the things they cited, none of them actually justify what they're claiming. All they're doing is claiming that what they're, by simply filming and being in a public space, when they come to confront you, that you're intimidating, that you're harassing, because those are the terms that are used. But that's not the reality. You're not impeding their investigation by filming, which is your constitutional right, in particular when it comes to people in authority. That's been upheld roundly by the Supreme Court. This is just a new time we're in right now, where this administration is allowing these 47-day trained bounty hunters that seem to barely know how to read and write out there to, and I'm being facetious, that's some of the conversation, but allowing them to act this way, right? And it's clear that they are giving them the leeway. As we pointed out, even the Border Patrol is saying that they're feeling that allowance by what they're ignoring.
A lot of numbers you just remember. Yeah. Good job. I'm not breaking the law and you fucking know it. Yes, you are. Not breaking the law and you fucking know it. Never got in front of everyone, never.
One more time and I will put you in handcuffs.
Okay, so check it out. It went from, you're doing a thing that shouldn't be happening. The guy simply says, I never got in front of anybody. I'm just simply filming. And somehow that constituted another time right there. So he's making the case for you. One more time and I'm taking the thing. Okay. So he's simply highlighting for you very clearly that being present and filming them and just refusing to bow to their orders is the violation. These people don't believe in the Constitution.
Bro. One more time. Bro. Keep it up. Step the f off.
See?
No.
Keep it up. I just want to make it clear. He's talking about right now. Keep it up. Keep doing what you're doing, and we're going to violate your rights. They don't care.
Oh, I'll stand right here, pal. Right here all day.
And if I fucking touch you, then you're gonna fucking arrest me.
Right all day.
Yeah, fuck you.
You're worthless. Worthless.
Fuck you.
Why? Because he's filming? You see, this is an emotionally driven, ideological maniac who's out there because, I mean, this is my opinion, obviously, but look at the way he's responding. He's emotionally driven. This is a man who is out there with the authority, apparently, to execute you in the street if you choose to ignore their orders. And this is how he's responding to an American citizen who's just simply filming them like is his right. That's alarming, guys.
You have no honor.
Hold your fucking dogs back.
Now, you might ask yourself, according to their own policies, when can they draw their firearm?
Mm-hmm.
They can only draw a gun if they find that they're an immediate threat of serious harm.
Which is why they make that case. And let's not forget, as I'll show you in a second, they've been caught lying about that exact point. I can prove 4 times. I think the Wall Street Journal did a breakdown of more than that, but mine are, I've done an entire breakdown. Source material from the courts outlining they were caught lying about it. Doesn't matter though.
They cannot use their guns to intimidate people. In regard to bystanders, ICE has no authority over U.S. citizens and people filming or passing by. Being nearby an ICE agent or an ICE operation is not a crime. You haven't committed a crime. You haven't created a victim. ICE cannot stop, detain, or threaten U.S. citizens. Why? Because we have this thing in the country called the supreme law of the land, which is called the Constitution. Within the Constitution, you have the Bill of Rights. Within the Bill of Rights, you have this thing called the Fourth Amendment. You are free and you have the right to be secure in your persons, houses, papers, and effects. That includes your home. That includes your car.
That's important, right? Because that's what I was saying about the door handle and the way he came up to that. That's also a violation.
Includes on a public sidewalk. And that brings us to this February 28th, 2014 article by The Nation, which is entitled, U.S. Border Agents Intentionally Stepped in Front of Moving Vehicles to Justify Shooting at Them. An internal review of the U.S. Border Patrol raises serious questions about the agency's use of force policy. In this internal review, it says U.S. Custom and Border Protection use of force review from February 2013, shooting at vehicles. 15 cases were reviewed where shots were fired at or into vehicles by CBP agents. Based on a review of the submitted cases, it appears that Customs and Border Patrol practice allows shooting at the driver of any suspected vehicle that comes in the direction of agents. It's suspected that in many vehicle shooting cases, the subject driver was attempting to flee from the agents who initially put themselves into the exit path of the vehicle.
I mean, guys, we have a literal study that breaks down exactly what they're doing. It's just crazy where we are, isn't it? And the reality is that you can see this practice going into effect well before Renee Good. This is why I said this is kind of a breaking point, guys. This has awoken a lot more people than I think they realize.
Thereby exposing themselves to additional risks and creating justification for the use of deadly force. Think about that. Creating the justification for the use of deadly force. I'll put myself in front of this moving vehicle so that it makes it look like I was in danger. So when I pull the trigger, I've got plausible deniability and I have an excuse for why I ended that driver's life.
Now consider that if we, and this is, I can't speak to people's mindsets or intent, right? But you can see the way they're speaking. You can see that guy who was basically screaming at the guy. And we know that Ross was somebody who has been clearly, that you can look at the MAGA support and what he said out loud in his post. So when he also says effing bitch when she drives away after she was killed, there's clearly a hatred, an emotional motivation. And so what he's saying is that they are, and the point was that you see them filming, they're tracking, they're taking lists, right? They have these names. So if you're somebody out there who, let's even say, was taunting them, calling them a sellout, and you're working, whatever, they hate you. On top of the fact they've been convinced and told by the power structure that you're a terrorist and that you deserve to be shot and whatever else they're motivating. And so then you create the situation where the worst of them might choose to create the situation to be able to do that. If you actually think that that's not possible, I don't know where you are in the world, guys. This is, our own police background shows you that you get some of the worst people that gravitate towards these positions because it gives them power. It's just, think about this and think about the creation of the situation to be able to kill a U.S. citizen. There's the possibility of that. And what this allows, the blanket support for whatever they do, immunity, as they've said.
In most of these cases, the agents have stated that they were shooting at the driver of a vehicle that was coming at them and posing an imminent threat to their life. In some cases, passengers were struck by agents' gunfire. But it says little focus has been placed on defensive tactics that could have been used by shooting agents, such as, getting out of the way. It should be recognized that a half-ounce, 200-grain bullet is unlikely to stop a 4,000-pound moving vehicle, and if the driver of the approaching vehicle is disabled by a bullet, the vehicle will become a totally unguided threat.
That's basic logic, and that's my point about why they would consider that driving into the house. Are we of the mind that shooting her is going to somehow stop a moving vehicle? That seems ridiculous. That's a point that's not even being discussed. It's just because this has gone well beyond a logical talking point.
Obviously, shooting at a moving vehicle can pose a risk to bystanders, including other agents. The cases suggest that some of the shots at suspect vehicles are taken out of frustration when agents who are on foot have no other way of detaining suspects who are fleeing in a vehicle.
It's just such valid points here, and I'll leave it at that. You can watch the other half of the video. Brian does great work. But just thinking about that motivation, right? And, the idea that you're creating that, stepping in front, right? But simply getting out of the way or responding differently, it comes down to the need to stop them from being able to disobey what you're commanding. It is an authoritarian, hubris-driven kind of stance. And these are the kind of people they're leaning into. That's very clear. It's not even a secret. Here's a couple more examples. Called activism says, caught on tape. 2 ICE agents, and this is recently, slipped on the ice in Minnesota, causing one of their weapons to discharge because it wasn't set on safety. These people are dangerously negligent. Now realize this is not the first time this has happened. First, the idea that why are you carrying your weapon in the first place while you're holding stuff? Like, these people are lunatics, guys. And it just opens fire. Who knows if it shot somebody or shot something? Across the board, these people are not trained properly. And I think that's becoming very clear. We're going to come back to that in a second about the reality of the lack of training. Here is another example of what they're calling, it's a, like Brian was pointing to some background discussion. This is something they describe it as in this document, officer created jeopardy. Right, so you're putting yourself in risk in order to create the situation that rationalizes your actions. The ICE agent created it by blocking her in. The ICE agent drew his gun. The ICE agent executed a middle-aged mom. That's what he wrote. He says, I know it's hard to accept the truth, but you need to choke it down, America. Premeditated murder. Now, you have to, and it goes into the documents. The point we already basically went over. Brian did a good job explaining that. But here's another breakdown of a Homeland Security document outlining it, right? Disable moving vehicles, disabling fire, fleeing suspects. It says fleeing subjects. Deadly force shall not be used solely to prevent the escape of fleeing subject. That's why they argue they were in danger, right? Officers, agents should avoid standing directly in front of or behind a vehicle because of this. They're violating their own procedures by doing what they just did. Whether they know it or not is for you to decide. Now, this is the Wall Street Journal article, identified 13 instances of agents firing at or into civilian vehicles since July, leaving 8 people shot with 2 confirmed dead. Only one civilian was armed with a concealed weapon that was never drawn, and at least 5 of those shots were U.S. citizens. Amazing. Nobody's barely talking about this. We've been talking about it. But one of the other examples, by the way, was that I'm sure you've seen it. We played it on the show. There was that scuffle with one of the people, and people were filming. His gun falls out of his soul. He jumps up and basically accidentally discharges it. It's just incompetence. But this is very easy to see. Now, it's not because Wall Street Journal says it. We've covered it ourselves, but check it out because you can verify it yourself. Here's the article. Videos show how ICE vehicle stops can escalate to shootings. Here's my clip that Jason made from our show. There's the full show right there. 4 times ICE tried to spin the narrative and failed. It's 10 minutes long. Watch it. These are provable cases. I've talked about the family that drove off and they opened fire as they pulled away with a family in the car. They lied about that. So they pretended they were hit. They were forced to admit that didn't happen. There was the one where they rammed the woman in her car, opened fire. Miraculously, she survived. And the guy went on and posted 7 shots, 5 holes, bragging about what a great shot he was. They said she had a gun. Nome and McLaughlin said she had a semi-automatic weapon. Turns out she didn't have anything. Turns out they looked and she had a license for a weapon, so they just decided to lie about that. The weapon was at her house. She was sitting in the car. They rammed her. They got out and opened fire and said that they hit her, and that was a lie. It came out in court. Guys, this alone is enough to recognize that we're being deceived. And here's the article in case you want to read more of it. The U.S. border agents intentionally stepped in front of moving vehicles to justify shooting at them. The Nation, 2014. This is the example that Jason Bassler just shared. My point about this seemingly becoming too normalized. MAGA, patriots in quotes, says preach officer safety and blind compliance, yet are silent when police shoot someone in the back. If you accept cops firing first and justifying it later, you're asking to live in a police state, and you'll get exactly that. Justice for Donald Taylor. So here's the guy. He's walking away. So here's the point. He's disregarding what they're saying. Now, stop, get down, stop moving, right? He walks with his hands out, as you can see for the seconds of the podcast, and they open fire on him and shoot him in the back and kill him right there on the street. Why doesn't this matter? Wow. And then proceed to go up and handcuff his dead body. As Brian wrote, I especially love the part where the cowards handcuff a limp dead body for officer safety, of course. There's no rationalizing this, guys. There is no justification for stop shooting somebody in the back because they're not listening. You know who does do that? Israel and the IDF, quite frequently. We'll get to that point about training, despite that being disregarded and lied about. Here's a couple examples that are worth pointing out. This one says, are these people suicidal? This is an ICE vehicle, and these are protesters. And, well, first, just watch. Oh, look at that. Wow, look at that. That could have easily been under the car right there. And guess what? Every single conservative, or rather Team Sport Republican, would say they brought it on themselves because they were in front of the car. Okay, that's a fair argument to make about what about, you see, it's just one-sided. Now, of course, it's about blind acceptance of authority, which is funny coming from the people fighting the deep state, but whatever. But he says, so these people can shoot ICE agents and kill them, right? This is how the rules work. And obviously there's different situations, right? But the point is the same. This is what I've been repeatedly told. It just shows you that there is a difference of opinion based on what side you're coming from. If it's a crime to do that, it's a crime to do that. But overall, that's not what was happening with Renee. And the facts show that. Here's another example as well. We've talked about January 6th ad nauseum, and my opinions about the reality of how obviously it was a manipulation and all of that. This is simply to show, as I've pointed out, and Steve and I have talked about, most people that were there that day were simply just kind of meandering part of the protest. There were people, though, that broke the law. I've never said otherwise. But there's a different point to be made about how it was engaged with, how it was set up, what they were trying to create, the psychological operation of all of it. But what's interesting, as it says, all these people were given pardons. Most of these people you're seeing here who are the ones who actually hit officers with clubs and poles, all the things they say to go after the grandmas that walk through the room, and yet they pardoned these people. Now, look, you can decide whether you think that's justified, because this was, I think, a large setup. But if your point down here on the 10th of January was, if you lay a finger on federal officers or agents, you will face the full extent of the law, I guess that applies only to people you dislike. I guess that's not a principle, but rather a weaponized thing to go against a certain side. I mean, it's just having principles, guys. They don't. And we need to be honest about that. Now, lastly, on this part of the segment, Justice Department sees no basis for civil rights probe in Minnesota ICE shooting. Officials say. We've investigated ourselves and we found ourselves not guilty, as usual. Now, this is specifically the civil aspect, right? Because guess what? The FBI is going to do their own job, and I'm sure they'll help. I'm sure they'll do a good job on holding the police officer accountable, or the ICE agent. I'm being facetious. I think we know what's going to happen. Justice Department does not believe there's currently any basis, no basis, to open a criminal civil rights investigation. Seriously, into the killing of a woman by U.S. Immigration Customs of an ICE officer in Minneapolis. It says the decision to keep the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division out of the investigation into the fatal shooting of Renee Good marks a sharp departure from past administrations, basically meaning that regardless, this happens every time. Because you don't know unless you do the investigation, right? But they're going to go, we know already, don't need to look at it. That shows you that they don't care about the facts. An investigation will be able to present something to show you what the facts are. They want you to take their word for it. It's not new, but this is a new deviation from, they could just go through the process and lie about it. But you see, I think they recognize that they don't have the support of even their entire administration, guys. People are in this that want to be part of the team, want power, but aren't willing to violate every principle they have. That's why you get people that don't prosecute James Comey, or people, which, remember, Comey's a criminal. But what they were using to go after him was built to fail, in my opinion. And so the first guy says, well, I'm not going to do this. This is going to make me look stupid. They get him out of the way. And then Abba steps in. Now she's out of the way. It's just so blatant. And it says, which have moved quickly to probe shootings by civilians, of course, or of civilians by law enforcement with potentially violations and finding out whether that exists. While which again, this is such an obvious case where there's criminal activity. While an FBI probe is ongoing, lawyers in the Civil Rights Division were informed last week that they would not play a role in the investigation at this time, according to two people familiar with the matter. And maybe they could change that 2 days from now, right? But this is what's going around, and this is what we've heard from them on the condition of anonymity. Federal officers have said that the officer acted in self-defense and that the driver of the Honda was engaged in an act of domestic terrorism when she pulled forward. It's not what happened. But that's going to stop it. That's it, right? It's over. Don't look forward. Let's go over a couple of examples I think are relevant. In case you haven't seen these are important. We've talked about this one before, and I think this is important to make. There's many, many more than just this one. But let's make sure you understand that this is not unique to one. Everybody, whether you're white, whether you're black, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Christian, whether you are anything, you're not, they will, if they want to, if you're disrespectful, they will violate your rights. This is a Trump supporting, I believe it was he's Danish. ICE unjustly imprisons Danish dad of 4. He was a Trump supporter. He's a white family. Not that should make any difference for what outrages you, but the reality is clearly that this is somebody who just was manipulated. And you look at the data, the guy was not, it was a very flimsy thing. He was up, he had adhered with almost every part of his meetings. I think he was even going, if I remember correctly, to his final meeting for his citizenship, and they imprisoned him anyway. They're just trying to add to the quota, it seems. But you can watch the show if you want. Oh, as always, the other part of the title was Israeli embassy staff shot in DC. Remember that? I'm sure that wasn't a complete psyop. And as always on tracking, which is always on. But let's also not forget that Trump deportations revealed to be full of innocent people, legal immigrants who were here legally with no criminal record. We just moved past that. The entire, remember that first major plane full to El Salvador? Guys, most of those people were not criminals. Most of them were here legally with minor violence. Doesn't matter though. They just bull rushed over it. And why we would think it changed after that, I don't know. On top of that, this is on October 31st, DHS lies about detaining and deporting U.S. citizens. Noam comes out. McLaughlin comes out. And you can even ask Grok, it'll tell you how many they've done, but they just lie. Nothing new. They're lying now. Here's a couple other examples. Now, this one's 4 minutes, so I won't play it all or play it, but I'll play some of the other ones. But this is another example of a U.S. citizen. ICE detains U.S. citizen teacher at a special education school. Deploy tear gas at the student drop-off. They yell, they broke her window. They pull her out of her car. They've tear gas around children. It says an agent crashed into his car into her, which we've seen already done. They do this all the time. Then blamed her for ramming him. See, they know that they have support of the administration. So my opinion, now this is just the opinion part. What we can see is what just happened or what we just read. The motivation is my opinion. I think we're dealing with somebody who's watching them, who is on their radar for unjust reasons like observing them, and they decide to do something about it. So they ram your car and then say, you hit us, and jump out and deal with it. That's what happened to that woman they shot. They lied about that. It was on video. It came out in court, guys. So we should consider they're doing it now. And so this is a U.S. citizen. They ram into her car. They jump out and it says, no, I was right in front of her and you rammed her vehicle. Somebody, the eyewitness yells out. She was turning into school and you rammed in front of her. I am a witness to every moment of this. Concord Education Center is a level 4 special education school providing intensive support for children with severe disabilities. The school is located in Inner Grove Heights suburb. Now it says, while ICE agents claim Rank hit their vehicle, they're lying and saying she hit them. It says, Hunkel said, based on the damage to her car, that seems unlikely, which is the evidence doesn't play a factor, guys. It's just the narrative and the team support. Like Noam lying about this event before she even knew what happened. There was no damage on her front bumper. The only damage was to the passenger side door and the back window where they had broken it. They don't care about the facts, guys. I mean, you get this, the story's right there. Read it for yourself here. And by the way, don't just accept the story as accurate. Look into it like I did, and you'll see the facts are quite clear. This is wild to me. Now, you've seen this one going around. Here's what they're putting out. This is the kid that was arrested out front of the Target. Remember that? And you've seen the narratives. Oh, he punched somebody. Oh, he was violent. Well, you can decide for yourself. What we're getting told is that he punched somebody right by the door, and that's why they got him, or some varying narratives I've seen go around. Well, guess what? Here's a longer video that shows you how this started, where he's out there filming them, and then they come up on him. And they basically surround him, and he tries to walk back into the store he works at, and they tackle him in the doorway. And it says, this is what I said. This individual was arrested for assaulting federal law enforcement officers. Again, 18-101. Whatever that means, anything we can do is possible. And so ICE and Homeland Security are lying. Here's the video.
You doing all right?
Huh? I'm not doing all right.
What's that?
I'm not doing all right.
Okay, so right now, just recognize that if this person had assaulted one of them like they're claiming, they would be tackling him to the ground, and you damn well know it.
You doing all right?
Huh? I'm not doing all right.
What's that?
I'm not doing all right. I'm not doing all right.
I can't hear
Back
what
up.
you're saying.
Yo. See that? Look at the recording. We're here. What y'all doing? Yo, back up.
You good? What's that? You good? Oh, absolutely.
Your face.
Absolutely. Back up. I'm walking here. Back up.
You even just told him to go away. Back up, get out of the way. I'm walking. Let's keep pretending like he assaulted one of them before this all started. You'll watch how this continues.
Good show.
Hey, that's not a nice guy.
I don't give a fuck.
Good.
Fuck you and fuck all y'all.
Okay. Oh no, he just told them to F off. So apparently to some of these constitutionalist conservative Republicans out there, that's enough to tackle him and arrest him, because how dare you say mean words? Because words are violence, apparently.
What you gonna do?
Hey, you guys American citizens? Fuck you. Huh? None of your business. That's what.
Fuck you.
All right.
Right. So yeah, like it's just a no big deal to ask people. Like that's the idea, is that you don't get to arrest somebody to find out whether they are.
See that?
This continues to blow me away. People who have been criticizing police overreach are now suddenly supporting.
Blocking traffic.
Or they have no principle. Again, I argue most conservatives are not okay with it.
You're blocking traffic. Look at that. Bunch of y'all right there.
Fuck you.
Fuck every single one of y'all. Look at that.
Just gonna get a pic. Hold on.
Go ahead, take a pic right there.
Let me get one.
Yeah, we're still pretending. Oh, wait, this is where it all starts.
Fuck you. Huh? Fuck you. Come on. Fuck you. Don't touch me. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Hey, don't touch him. Don't touch him. What are you doing? Come on. Yo.
Fuck you. I work here, bro.
Yeah, he works.
Don't touch me. I dare you. Fuck you.
Look at that.
Fuck you. Fuck you. Or what? Fuck you.
Look at that. Look. Look, they're grabbing him. Look, they're grabbing him.
To the ground.
Let him go.
Guys, after they grab you illegally for no reason and you fight back, are you then assaulting an officer? Well, that's how they rationalize that. They say, you hit him, which I don't even see actually happening. I think they grab him, muscle him to the ground, and then you just being resistant is what they argue violates anything. Or they just literally make it up like they keep doing. Here it is. Look at all the exact people you could list off. You probably know them by memory at this point. The Johnsons, the Joneses, the Nick Sorter, they're all lying about this. Eric Doherty, all of them. Parroting what they're supposed to say, acting like they're the fighting the power while they literally bootlick to the power every single day. It's embarrassing, and it should be, because this is pathetic. Oh, well, I mean, I think there was one more on there. Another post down below, I think. Oh, no, that was just the same point. I mean, you know, it's just, my point again is if you watch how this starts, you believe that they're going after him because he assaulted an officer? Did they need 75 people surrounding him? No, this guy was insulting them, and they decided to do something about it because they know that nobody's going to do anything back in the government. At least, it seems even the Democrats, by the way, despite talking about things, where's the action? They're in Congress. Do something about it. I don't think they really care. I think they're salivating about having this power when they're in the position. Now, here's another example. A Charlotte man was stopped twice by ICE. The first group checked his ID, let him go. And we've seen this happen numerous times. Minutes later, another set of agents rolled up, smashed his window, dragged him out, assaulted him. And he was a U.S. citizen.
You guys again? Oh, what the fuck? I'm backed up. I'm backed up. I'm backed up. What happened? What happened? They just ID'd him. They just ID'd him. The other guys. Don't you fucking guys coordinate with each other? They just ID'd him. They just ID'd him. You broke his fucking windows. There was another truck that was here and ID'd him already. The fuck is going on? Just show me your ID again. This is bullshit. What the fuck?
Hey. Now, look, guys, please go through. The reality of this is there's so much of this happening, and it's everywhere. And it's constantly being shown every day on top of the examples we're highlighting that these people are not guided by any policy, any legal structure. They're doing whatever they want. I don't know why that's okay with anybody, even if you think it's being used against people you dislike. That just makes you a petty, small person. This is a problematic situation. And here's the point. Now, I just for Brian, this guy posting this, I think it's ridiculous. He does all sorts. He constantly, you know, he's the one side of the same left-right nonsense. Whatever, it doesn't change the fact that this is correct. It just seems to be in his interest, right? The disregarding of things because it comes from one side or the other, that's your choice to be ignorant. The facts are there. You can suss them out for yourself. And speaking of ignorance, here's Gunther Eagleman. Maybe Joe Biden shouldn't have left the border open. Okay. Did you read that it was a U.S. citizen, or you just that? I simply said, or is it just that your entire agenda is actually about lying for Trump where needed? Pretty much one or the other, man. I mean, the guy's a U.S. citizen. So why would Joe Biden's border? Well, that's just the reflexive argument that gets 494 likes because people are stupid. It just kills me, man. Okay. That same account from before. ICE agents in Minneapolis violently detained, threatened, and arrested a U.S. citizen. Funny how continually we've all been telling you this is where it's going. For one reason only, he refused to prove his citizenship. We keep seeing this. They do not have the right to arrest you because you don't verify that why are they going after him in the first place if they don't know that he's an immigrant? They don't have the right to just detain people unless there's immigration issues or a warrant. If you're arresting him to find out if he's illegal, then you don't have the standing. It doesn't matter because what they're creating is this forceful precedent that they can do what they want because they've got a mandate or whatever their narrative is, which doesn't even actually seem to be the case anymore. Watch this one.
Get the fuck on the car.
Guys, I didn't give you a warning before. I apologize. There's cursing in a lot of these things, but I think it's worth checking to see these. So just prepare yourselves for the cursing.
Like you're fucking arrested. Get the fuck on the car.
Now that's fucking assault.
Don't move, you're gonna get fucking tased.
Look at the way that they're responding from somebody who's completely complying. These people are belligerent.
Don't fucking move or you're gonna get tased. Because you want to be an idiot.
I'm not moving.
Because you want to be a fucking
You're
idiot.
a fucking pussy.
You're a fucking bitch. And you're gonna learn the fuck.
Okay. So these are supposed to be the adults in the room, right? Or the authority, like not guided by anger, vicious mentality. So he's cussing at him. Okay. If you're to the point to where you're going to respond violently or curse back because they started it, you're a child and should not be holding that position in any way, shape, or form. But that's who they're finding. They're putting out a bat signal to literally any blind following, ideologically driven, half-wit to come out there and give them every power they've ever dreamed about and enforce against anybody you don't like, especially if they just look at you funny. Why would they respond like that? Shouldn't that be embarrassing for the agency? Wouldn't they be going, remember in the past when, whether they even mean it or not, they put out statements, we don't endorse this and we think we're, they don't even care. When's the last time they even put out a statement saying anything about all the crimes they've done? Because they don't care anymore. I still point out that means there's something else happening, or at least that's likely, that we're talking about somebody who's literally dismantling this country for other reasons.
Fucking Hardaway.
Well, I'm gonna hear that again.
Get tased. Because you want to be an idiot.
I'm not moving.
Because you want to be a fucking
You're
idiot.
a fucking pussy.
You're a fucking bitch. And you're gonna learn the fucking Hardaway.
Right. They're going to make this tougher for him because he dared to say things out loud they don't like because they're snowflakes.
I just asked you for an ID. That was
I don't give a fuck what you asked me for, bitch.
Shut up.
You shut up, bitch.
Shut up.
What's wrong with you?
Meaning he has an ID and he is a U.S. citizen. He just didn't produce it when they demanded it, like papers, please. Remember when they were making that comment about Biden during COVID-19? Funny how quickly they ignore that when it's their turn. And I'm just talking about team sport. I don't think that's the majority.
What's wrong with you? He has a gun on him. Look at that.
A fully registered firearm because I'm a U.S. citizen.
See how they react? Is that it's not a crime, but because of the assumption being that there's an issue because the guy's brown, all of a sudden that's immediately grounds to increase. You can look into this for yourself, guys. This is just over the top.
What's wrong with y'all?
Wow.
Off this ground. That gun could have fallen off from that. What are you arrested for? Not using right thing. That's capital.
That's a wax.
Well, it's capital. How many times you can say this?
Is that right? Is that fucking right? Y'all are some real fucking scumbags, you know that, right?
I'm a scumbag?
Yes.
You just acted
You're
like
a
one.
fucking scumbag.
If you're a fucking U.S. citizen, you shouldn't have done that.
What made?
Oh, what? He shouldn't have what? He should have just complied with authority. Is that what we argue is a U.S. citizen's job? Is that what we argue is an American value? To just comply and acquiesce to whatever you demand, even though it's unconstitutional? Do you think this guy even knows that while he's screaming and, emotionally driven?
Did you get into this fucking profession? Why are you so mad at why are you so mad at immigrants? What did they do to you?
here's a good point you made about what Alex said, right? This guy doing this, even though he's well within his rights, could have easily gotten him killed. And so that's the consideration you have to make. I still argue that if we care about saving what's happening, then we need to put ourselves at risk. As Bruce often says on fine print, the point being simply that, you know, the first people that signed the Constitution, they signed their death warrants. They were willing to risk everything to fight for this. So when you stand up for something like this, knowing that you might get hurt for it, that's honorable, guys. And I'm not talking about punching somebody. I'm talking about just he has every right to say what he wants and doesn't require to produce what they demand of him. You know, that's what a principled stance looks like, despite how it's being framed by belligerent partisans.
Unlawful arrest. We'll see if. What did I do? What did I do that was illegal? Don't worry. We're gonna fuck. What did I do that was illegal?
Hear that? Don't worry. We'll get something on you. Don't worry. We'll figure it out. I mean, guys, they're arresting him for nothing. And this is wasting people. What about Trump's argument of saving taxpayer money, right? Shrinking government. You're growing government and you're like burying us in processes and costing. Well, you know, we can't give everyone due process. It'll take too long. What do you think these things do? They clog up the system and they waste taxpayer money because these children are too small and petty to just acknowledge this person is allowed to not follow their orders. How much you want to bet this will never see anything. There won't be a court case. This will just can go away because they'll release him because there's no charge. Or they'll manufacture something and try like they did before with the guy that they know was not committing a crime. And then they tried to arrest him for assaulting a police officer anyway, even though it was proven they didn't actually hit him. They did that.
Okay. I didn't reach for anything. I reached for my whistle.
Oh, to see how they so now you reach for something, right? It's just manufacturing things. And by the way, you're allowed to reach into your pocket. They have no authority to stop you. Therefore, you're not in some situation where you like hands up. They're not allowed to do that. He's not an immigrant. They don't have a warrant. They're violating their own policies here, guy. They're violating the law. So to say you reach for something, in what context? You know what I mean? Like suddenly you're not allowed to put your hands in your pockets but even then, I bet you that's not even what actually happened. My opinion.
Y'all are grown men picking on fucking family, bro. Picking on family. You're picking on families, bro. I'm fucking arresting child molesters. I'm fucking child molesters? Yeah. Are you guys telling me?
But now you're arresting a U.S. citizen for what?
Arresting child molesters. Oh, is that what you're doing? Every single Democrat or every single immigrant now is a child molester? That's the broad statement you just made. You're not. How do you know you're arresting child molesters? Are you following up on specific child? Well, then you're not doing ICE's work. It's just crazy what these people are saying.
For what?
Who here's a child molester, bro?
There are people all over here now your assumption, everyone who we tonight is out there for child molester or couple. Now, here's the same point, guys. This is just very clear to somebody who's principled. It's very clear. And now, where this continues to go into, guys, is on top of that, the surveillance state that builds on this broken justification, using, in many cases, complete illusory false statements, right? Claims about what's happening, terrorists and weaponry and organized network, which all are things that do exist, largely used by the very people using the accusation, but that's not what they're actually doing. They're pointing to a random guy and making up stories about what's happening. And this, guys, is what it leads to. It's where we already are. We've been trying to ring this bell for quite a while.
You can now draw a digital line around your neighborhood and see the location of every phone inside it. As thousands of federal agents deployed to cities like Minneapolis, an exclusive report from 404 Media reveals the surveillance tool they're using to hunt people down. It's called Weblock. Here's how it works. An agent draws a shape on a digital map, a city block, a workplace, or a protest site. The system instantly pulls up the history of every mobile phone that's been inside that shape. It shows where you sleep, where you work, and who you spend time with.
Okay, really take a second to think about this. There's the Gotham point as well. That means anybody, guys. So in this argument that they need to make sure and get the bad immigrants, they're able to just get everybody's information in this radius. Why is that okay to everybody? Your privacy is non-existent. Guess what that's a part of? That's the Great Reset. That's where they're driving you, and Trump is the one spearheading it, but it's not just the Republicans. You just seem to recognize where we actually are right now. This is criminal, what they're doing.
Creates a pattern of life analysis to predict your next move. They don't need a warrant. They don't need a subpoena. They just buy the data from apps installed on your phone right now. Yes.
Here's the point, though. Yes, they very much do. What they've done is they found a workaround using the new technological developments that we've never caught up with. The laws are back in the 70s. They have not caught up with the technological reality. And that's by design, I think. So they can go, well, there's not a law that says we have to. It's, the law. You're not allowed to access personal information without except the allowance of the person or without a justifiable warrant. Just because you have a loophole through an app doesn't change that reality. They're criminal. We should be aware of this by now.
Today, an ICE agent shot and killed a U.S. citizen in Minneapolis during an operation. Today, we know they have the technology to watch the entire city without leaving their desk.
Think about that. So then there's even less justification for what just happened. And I'm just including the Derek's outstanding article of the Palantir World Order, because that's where this is. Glenn Greenwald points out, to make that case, yet another federal contract handed out by the Trump administration to Palantir. We told you this, guys. It just keeps getting more obvious. And Jones will keep pretending like it's a small Democrat thing because that seems to be his job. The creepy and omniscient, that's weird. I feel like that was spelled differently. Knowing everything. So basically, ubiquitous surveillance state cooperation co-founded by Peter Thiel and Alex Karp, both major donors to Trump, in bed with Israel too. I mean, I love that Glenn has come. He's just hauling this stuff out. Things that at one point would have been even deemed likely by him to be somewhat like untouchable, or you're too like. Basically, the Israel conversation, the idea of they're in bed with Israel, used to be called racist. It's the truth. And it's not about what, it's not only about religion. It is about the policy. It's about Zionism. It's about the clear government action. Palantir Technologies is going up in cost. This is everything we're worried about, guys. And is less spending, less surveillance? Nope. You got played if you think that's what's happening. On top of that, DHS invokes immigration enforcement to justify Americans' DNA grabs. Used to matter. It mattered when Biden was doing it. Now it's okay because bad guys, whatever the narrative is, this is a crime. This is a violation. It's happening everywhere simultaneously. Call it out. Justin Amash points to what Kristi Noem said. She says, drones, this was on the 12th, by the way, drones represent the new frontier of American air superiority. Under President Trump, we are entering a new era to defend our air superiority, to protect our borders and the interior of the United States. How long have we told you? It's not just about the border. They use the justification and they surveil everybody all the time. An exit entry border tracking system on planes, on air, on water, right? Because we know how often immigrants will illegally sneak in through airliners, right? I mean, this is about all encompassing ubiquitous surveillance. And now they're just bragging about it. Things that we would never accept, or rather conservatives, Republicans would not accept if it was the other side. And, let me finish, which case it says, with the creation of the DHS program, Executive Office for Unmanned Aircraft Systems and Counter Unmanned, President Trump continues his historic legacy in developing American dominance. See, is that what we wanted? American dominance? Or do we want less government and less spending and liberty and freedom? The things that they promised, but then they go power, dominance, and war because that means freedom and liberty and less war when we get there. Just trust the plan. Keep closing your eyes and it will all end up in the worst position it always does. But American dominance is not what we're talking about, guys. That's what the powerful oligarchy wants. And now they're somehow just mashing together freedom and liberty and self-determination with our dominance. It never works out that way. And they're counterintuitive. This will help us continue to secure the border and cripple cartels. See, just do whatever we say, and giving us absolute surveillance will help us fight the things that you think we're fighting. Just keep pretending that. Protect our infrastructure and keep Americans safe. Well, we don't need your ubiquitous surveillance and drone dynamics to do any of that. You just don't. And it says, and keep Americans safe as they attend festivities and events during historic year of America's 205th birthday and FIFA. Just using it's going to get crazier. What they're saying with these new events and the birthdays, there's going to be bad guys coming out. So we have to surveil everything all the time. That's what she's saying. Now, interesting time since I've taken longer than I wanted at this point. I won't go through this in depth, but we already talked about this. This is the Daily Mail, which largely this came from, December 3rd, 2025. Bombshell Daily Mail investigation reveals the shocking truth about the agents ICE has hired. Trump administration's frantic push to hire 10,000 new deportation officers by the year's end has spiraled into what insiders describe as the national embarrassment, with lax vetting and assigning of bonuses of up to $50,000, luring in a wave of woefully unfit recruits. This is the Daily Mail saying this. An exhaustive Daily Mail investigation exposed how ICE has lowered standards so dramatically that the new cohort now included recent high school graduates, applicants who can barely read or write, as well as those who lack basic physical fitness and even have pending criminal charges. But yeah, let's go ahead and pretend that's what's called a meritocracy, guys. Isn't that the same thing? Yes, it's the same thing. So on one side, you're like, we're going to hire women and trans, and okay, over here we're going to hire. The point is, whatever the direction, it's whatever we want to suit our interests, not who's best for the job. So if you only care about bad Democrat perspectives and not really about the principle, then you have no principles, right? It should matter about the actual statement you make, a meritocracy. So if you want the best people for the job, then hire the best people for the job. And if you're arguing we have to hire people who can't read and write, who don't know how to fire a gun, then maybe we shouldn't be hiring them. Maybe it's better than having enough people. But we know it's not about enough people. Anyway, it's just crazy. And on top of that, it says the new hires in the $30 billion initiative, spending less. You're all being played if you're following this. Now, let's not also forget this was Anthony Aguilar from the guy who was the whistleblower about the ISIS-linked gangs that were fronting as the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and executing people trying to be fed. He told you this. Multiple U.S. people told you this, and they still lie about it. Here he is telling you that ICE is training in Israel. But we know this. You can prove it. You can prove it on their own documentation. But there's a narrative going around trying to act like that's not true. This is just him visually seeing that happening and telling you about it.
Look at what's happening. Every day, I've been there. I have trained with them. I have been to Israel where ICE agents and DEA agents and other three-letter agencies train with the Israelis, with the gendarmerie and the Israeli police force, training with them. And they bring those tactics back here. The oppression that we export, we bring it right back here. Look around. We are the ones suffering. Children in Gaza are suffering. Fathers, mothers, families are suffering. Every day on TV, we see a Palestinian father carrying their dead child. And little Marco and Ambassador Huckabee and our president make jokes and celebrate. A ceasefire? What a joke. The ceasefire wasn't even in effect for 30 seconds before Israel dropped another bomb. And what did they say? We can get away with it. Wake up, people. Every day we pay Israel our tax dollars so they can continue to bomb and kill unarmed civilians. We bomb boats off the coast of Venezuela. We blow up Colombians in fishing boats and say, oops. If you don't think that won't come to your neighborhood, think again.
And here we are. Renee Good's not even the first example, but realize this was a while ago. This was not the last. This is the ceasefire before the last one. And this was already beginning with Venezuela. Recognize that he's right. People saying that we're all Gaza, that, this is where we are, guys. It is being outsourced, or rather just being transitioned into the, if you don't see the global agenda around this and how obviously look at Greater Israel point and how they're 5-6 different countries they're engaged with and expanding as we speak. What the U.S. been doing that its entire existence, it seems, or the training or the overlap of ICE and police and how obviously those tactics are bleeding into this country. You don't even have to get into what the obvious Zionism overlap to this. Just recognize that those belligerent tactics are being used against American citizens right in front of us. It's not a secret.
I have seen it. It is coming. ICE agents train in Israel, and they bring that back here, and they bring the same tactics. You don't don't have to read the secret files to see what's happening on our streets every day. For all you that serve your country, all of us that have served our country, for those of you out here in uniform serving your country, if you're a YouTube influencer, Israel will pay you $7,000 per post. You know who they pay that with? Our tax dollars. Our government makes us stupid, and we should not put up with it.
Here is Jewish Voice for Peace. One of the main groups, by the way, that was behind the protest that they called anti-Semitic, Columbia and so on, a Jewish organization. Funny how that just never really broke through the conversation. Deputy Director of ICE was sent by the ADL for training with the Israeli military. Now, what's even more interesting, that's from 2018. It's only worse now, but what you should recognize is that's Donald Trump's first administration. So there's been a continuity of this agenda that goes back quite a while. It's worth recognizing that this is not new. Marcus O'Descent points out, read the U.S. IOF training ties. And he goes, American police departments and the U.S. military have been trained directly with the Israel occupation forces in Israel for over 20 years. It's actually, I mean, we've gone over this on the show. It's just publicly discussed. We've shown training exercises. We've shown how the police, like local police stations will have tours, and they are absolutely involved with the training. And that's not literally everybody everywhere, but it's there. And it's at higher levels that trickle down through these different departments. It's not even debatable. So what's interesting is you watch the conversation now trying to deflect from that point in the ICE conversation. That's not true. You're just making things up. No, it's easily verifiable for yourself. But why are they lying about it? Well, I think it's desperate, because what else are you going to do? From urban warfare to crowd control, from missile defense to protest suppression, everything you have seen in Gaza and the West Bank, this knowledge has been transferred to our boys in blue and camouflage. Taxpayer funded, obviously, and it's been quietly expanded post 9/11. Oh, that's right. Here, let me play this. This is actually, I forgot to download this. It's only a minute 46. This is Jeremy as well, or Anthony, excuse me, the one we just played. Let me grab this for you and I'll play it. This is them just speaking on what they were just discussing. But, you know, again, it's interesting how willfully people will lie about these things. Or really, I argue a lot of them think they're being honest. They just don't care about the truth enough to look, but have an agenda. And so they ultimately progress what they believe is what supports the team agenda. But just decide this is the case is my point, right? There's a level of convincing yourself of the lie. Willful ignorance is what I call that.
ADF trains American police officers and ICE officers in Israel?
They train with U.S. ICE, with U.S. Homeland Security.
NYPD.
NYPD.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's called through a SME program, subject matter exchange, where our police, etc., train with them. So these National Guard soldiers that will soon be in or are in Chicago have trained with and train with Israel habitually for years.
I mean, how do you not see that overlap? Remember, this is before we got to where we are now.
So when you look at all of these pieces of who do we have operating on the streets of Portland and the streets of New York and in DC, and who's going into Chicago, all components and elements that have trained hand in hand with the IDF or the Israeli Ministry of the Interior, Gendarmerie, paramilitary police.
Now think about what happened in Chicago. Remember? They burst into that building. They drop down from helicopters and paracord, and they throw grenades into babies' rooms. And what they end up arresting 2 people. And it turns, I think none of them ended up being actual criminals. Correct me if I'm wrong. The story was a little bit ago. But the point was they ended up claiming it was all these terrorists. Oh, that's what it really was. There was no connection to terrorism. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. There was no terrorism connection. There's no gang connection. I think they arrested a couple of people, and the narrative being some massive operation. The point was, even if those 2 people were people that should be arrested, what you did to the entire building and woke up everybody, U.S. citizens, children's rooms, tear gas inside the building. I mean, where do you think that comes from? We're watching where that comes from.
That's absolutely amazing. I also
That's not a coincidence.
They do anti-Semitism training, not just physical training, but brainwash training, basically, for them too.
When we entered Israel, they took us on the Hasbara tour. They took us to
Hasbara,
Kibbutz Be'eri. They took us to the Nova Film Festival site, and they also took us to Sderot, which is the overlook just outside of northern Gaza City in Beit Hanun. It's on the Israeli side of the border that overlooks all of Gaza City. They've turned that into a spectacle. It's a picnic site.
They sit there and drink beer and eat popcorn while they watch Gaza get bombed. It's not a joke. It's been widely bragged about and covered. It's an event for them. And you're talking about bombing innocent people and children, and you can prove this. But realize what he's talking about with all of that was the last one was
Overlook. Just took us on.
Oh yeah. So basically they bring them around the tour before they go to do their job. Remember, this is a guy who ended up whistleblowing after the job. So the reason they do that is just they're trying to set the narrative in your mind so you feel ideologically driven and ignore things that might seem a little bit too much. That's what they do.
Of Gaza City. They've turned that into a spectacle. It's a picnic site.
Really?
You can go up there. There's vending machines. There's an area to park. There's an area where you can get your panoramic view with Gaza in the background. And if you time it just right, there might be a bomb that drops for your photo.
It's real, guys. And I've done an entire segment on that. Here is, this was the Palestinian Chronicle, how ICE is bringing Israeli occupation forces tactics to U.S. streets. It's their analysis. Here is, Scalawag, ICE and the IDF, the transnational nexus of state control. Now, each one has their own perspective. Just recognize it's not really debatable that this is happening. It's all right in front of you. James Lee also points out, remember, this is not Cat Turd. This is the account basically making fun of him. It's called Cuck Turd. And it says, MAGA, anti-ICE protesters are being paid. That's what it says. And that's the argument out there that everybody out there protesting them that's what Trump is doing. They're all paid agitators. Well, I guarantee that exists all over the conversation, left and right. But the point is that that's not proven in these cases. And the example of Renee Good wasn't true. But here, that's the point. MAGA saying they're all being paid, right? Cristian Noem, I'm secretly using $8 million of taxpayer money to pay podcasters and influencers to pretend they love ICE. This is one of the stories. You could easily look this up. It's where do you think that comes from? Israel paying? I mean, it's the same idea. It's not like it's unique to Israel alone to pay people to lie or propagandize, but it's such an obvious tactic right now. It's on the surface. Same thing they're doing. Here's money. Go out there and yell things we want. And James Lee says the downfall of America will be that nobody has any morals or values beyond get your bag, which I believe I take to mean just make money. But again, I don't think this is the majority of America. I really mean that. I'm not just saying that to be a contrarian. I genuinely do not believe that the majority of people are of the mind, or rather just simply don't have any morals or principles. I just find it almost impossible to believe with the information that we have in front of us. At least consider that might be the case. Glenn points out, Prem Thacker, saying a new poll. Now, as always, my opinion of polls. I don't think you should ever take them as at face value or as the full picture, but there's use to them. This poll finds that 46% support abolishing ICE, 43% oppose abolishing ICE. It says this is the first time that abolishing ICE has received a net positive support. Now, YouGov is one of the larger ones in The Economist, but it's never the full picture. And I always point out it's easy to manipulate these by tapping into certain demographics when you do the poll, right? But as Glenn writes, and this, I do agree with this poll aside. I think, like I said, in regard to just principles, he says the right, as in the right and Republicans seem to believe Americans want bands of roving, masked, armed federal agents on the streets beating protesters. Polls, not just this one, but more than one, are already showing Americans don't. The right should understand, given that fear of federal armed agents was recently one of its key beliefs. See my point, guys? It doesn't take much to back up and go, wait a minute. Even their side was saying this and Trump got elected, if you believe that's what actually happened in regard to the voting process. I don't, but the argument is not placed there, but elected, that the argument is that that's what he got elected on, right? Less government, less spending, freedoms. So if that's the case, then that's what people wanted. So this is not that. I think it's self-evident. I think it's very, very clear. So keeping all that in mind, because all of this stuff blends together right now. I'm not going to get in too deep on Venezuela. We've already gone pretty deep on the reality of it before and today, but I'll include the article Derek put out and we'll go into it in the future discussion. I have a few points about it, but this is an excellent article that really does. This is my point largely about the, framing Zionism, for example, or technocracy as some kind of a buzz catch-all that, let's put it this way first. It is abused there, and largely from the team sport politics people, but using it in a way that's, too broad or even too focused. But point is, if you're engaging with it honestly, you can look up the technical term. You can look up the way it's used. It's very specific what these things mean. And in fact, as we're showing with the article picture, here's the full version of it. This is quite literally the technate of America. This goes back to Technocracy Inc. I believe it was Elon's grandfather. And this is what they framed as the technate, which would be the power base of the technocracy going forward. And so, yeah, it basically just means the technical science engineers kind of leading, but it also means, as Derek is highlighting in this, a lack of privacy, a lack of control over your own life. And this is what they've discussed, arguing it'd be better for everybody, right? That is the Great Reset. That is, you want nothing and be happy. You have no privacy. And this is what it is. It's just rather overlapped, if you want to be very specific. And these things, I think, are converging. And maybe they were always part of the same idea. But this is what has been put out from a long time ago. So then think of Greenland, think of Mexico, think of Venezuela. I mean, it's all very clear how this stuff kind of overlaps. But, and more Cuba and other discussions, Venezuela ties into it when you look at the bigger picture. But so when you're talking about what technocracy is and recognizing that there's guiding forces in the mindsets of people who are funding administrations, it might not be Trump knowingly doing so. Maybe he's just being told what to do. Maybe he's acting for what the money says, or maybe he's a part of it. But you have to recognize how clear it is that the agenda is connected. The Venezuela technocracy connection. Now, I'll go over it. You can read through it. We've gone over most of this pretty clearly. But he says the U.S. bombing of Venezuela and capture of Nicolas Maduro cannot be rationally explained as a drug enforcement operation or even solely about recovering oil. The bigger picture is technocracy. And he goes over the Maduro discussion. He goes over the oil claim and what's really about, and generally goes into the larger picture, which just amounts to the Peter Thiel verse and all these different elements guiding towards this actual action. And you can quite literally prove that this comes from this conversation. It's worth checking out for yourself. Or Katie Miller, Stephen Miller's wife, putting out a call for taking Greenland with the American flag on it. Like, it's just weird. So read this. It's an important article. Here is a humorous example of how stupid this all is. This was Kevin Lee Father. Oh, let me make sure I got that clip. Actually, there it is. Kevin Lee Father put this out, and he says, well, let me play it first, actually, just because it's funny to watch.
Express gratitude more so for the opportunity to return to Venezuela under the stability that I know that this team and your team are able to deliver. And
these are all the oil companies, Exxon, Chevron, the whole thing.
When did you leave?
Huh?
When did you leave Venezuela?
As a company, we left under the sanctions in 2019. So we had intended to stay, and then when the sanctions went into place, we were required to leave.
That's embarrassing, right? It should be, if you know what's going on, because as he rightly points out, Trump asked a Halliburton executive when they left Venezuela, they were forced out in 2019 by Trump sanctions, which is exactly what we were talking about. Now, there's 2 points to be made, right? There was a nationalization from the government of Venezuela, which is their right to make about their resources and acknowledging how it's been muscled in the first place. But at the end of the day, they didn't remove them. They simply changed the dynamic. And many of them, like Halliburton and others, or excuse me, Chevron and one other I'm forgetting, they did stay. But the point was that Trump's actions are what ultimately drove them out. You think it's just impossible how embarrassing this is. And I said, what we are living through is truly a cartoon, one that would almost be funny if it weren't so alarming. Right. So their argument is that they are helping them go back and get their resources because the Venezuelan government forced them out. Apparently, he didn't get the talking point, or he just wants to be honest about it. Trump's sanctions against their industry are what made them leave. You see how broken it all is? Now the sanctions are done in order to hurt the people they claim they're trying to save so they can take control like they are right now. It's pretty sad and obvious. But again, if you're honest, it's out there. You can look it up. Now here is you almost can't get more lazy in your arguments. This is a discussion of why focus on Venezuela when Americans are focused on America, right? Hezbollah, Hamas. Not a joke.
How do you explain to your constituents, though, who might be having a hard time getting through day to day, getting by day to day, even though they're working very hard?
Yeah. Despite the lies, that's most conservatives will point out. My bills are up, right? Even if I support the agenda, look, I'm going to be honest. My bills are up. Costs are rising. Rent is going up. The government's getting larger. Government spending is going up. Like, okay, vaccines are being pushed. It's not what we were promised is the point as always. But that's the truth. Just because CNN says it doesn't automatically make it false. It's easily verified.
and they hear this and they question, well, why is the administration so focused on Venezuela and getting money to Venezuela and rebuilding Venezuela when...
Which money will not go in your pocket, no matter what they try to say. In fact, it looks like more likely that you will have to pay for some of it unless they can make enough money in profit to be able to cover the cost. But they made it clear that it might come out of taxpayer money.
I'm having a hard time getting through my day. So
well,
how do you explain that to your constituents?
The largest population of Hamas and Hezbollah outside the Middle East resides in Venezuela.
I mean, it's like they don't even know what they're talking to. I mean, why? So Americans are wondering why this is in their interest. And your response is because bad guys are there? Okay, so then what you're saying is we're going to go out and do this over here first. It's not America. And it's not immediate to you. Even if you want to argue that's eventually going to possibly threaten you, that is not America first. It's at best America second. Think about his response. But what else are you going to do? Your argument's built on the idea that you have bad guys. But wait a minute, I thought it was fentanyl. I mean, cocaine, or maybe drug trafficking in general, or that he's, the narrative now it's because Hamas is there. You can't get your story straight. But the reality is, there's no evidence to back up any of this. There's clear overlaps, but if you're going to say Hamas is there, then is that Israel funding them over there too? It's just embarrassing, but this is what you're going to get because we got to fight for freedom and democracy because they just don't know what else to say at this point. And not even that narrative doesn't even work anymore because they're not doing that. And their people don't even seem to support that anymore. They're just kind of spinning their wheels at this point and just hoping we stop paying attention.
Remember when Chavez came in, which was now in over 20 years ago, right? He removed a lot of the opposition. There's no opposition of any weight within Venezuela.
Oh, oops. You mean aside from Gonzalez and the rest that you claim won because there's enough support for them to win an election? Are these guys just not even talking to each other? Think about how stupid that is. You just told us they won because the Venezuelan people support them. That's the opposition, moron. Then they win. You tell us that. They really didn't. They lied about it. And then now you don't even support them because you don't like them because they won't have enough support. How do you reconcile those things without acknowledging that they're lying to you on one side or the other?
And who's the influencers? China, Russia, Iran, and I hope Iran falls.
And that's always what they do. We'll get to the Greenland point in a second. If we don't do it, China, Russia will. Well, there's no evidence of that. And show me the last country that they've illegally occupied and stolen. If you're talking about them making agreements that are being accepted, even with strong arm tactics by these countries, then what you're saying is we're going to steal it all because they're going to make a deal for some of it. You're the pirates. That's the point.
But those are the influencers coming right next door. And you saw the consequence. You saw drug trafficking.
Oh, you mean the things you guys haven't proven? Mm-hmm.
Narco and an illegitimate leader. I'm glad.
Is that it? That's what it leads to? Is your narrative about human trafficking and drug trafficking? And because that statement that we haven't proven, he's also a dictator? You mean, that's the best they can do? You can't make up a better narrative than that?
Glad he's gone. But I think also it's important that we come off as a liberating those funds to make sure that...
It's important that you say what we want you to say. It's important that you frame this as the way we want you to see it. I mean, I'm almost speechless by how bad this is.
Rebuild in the best interest of Venezuela. I think it's our best interest to have a prosperous Venezuela as they once were. It's in our best interest.
Is that in whose best interest? Do Americans benefit from that? No. Does the U.S. government benefit from them being prosperous? Not really. They profit from exploiting that country like they've done every single time I've ever shown in my entire life. Read Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Recognize this is verbatim what they're doing. But people like Benny Johnson and the rest will point to this as absolute because that's what their job is. Even though it's like child level embarrassing to make this make sense. And Republican accountability is the account. Oh, let me see what they said, actually. Forgot what they wrote. It just says, they're just quoting what it says. Okay, so here's another overlapping point. Very quickly, because I'm going to make a larger case about the network state point again soon. We might likely do an IMA panel about it. This is a quick point. Thank you to Charlie for pointing this out to me. Morgan put this out. And it says, while we're on the subject of Iran, during the fake 12-day war, every single Iranian strike landed on evacuated areas already marked for demolition. So the reporting goes, set to be cleared for Israel's urban renewal program. Now, that is the reality. Now, whether everyone was in fact Iran's bombing, or maybe just Israel bombed them to claim it was Iran, that's possible, right? What I would think is worth considering is that, let's just say for sake of conversation, what she's saying is 100% correct, which is that Iran somehow either coincidentally managed to bomb every location that Israel already had marked for demolition, all these different points we talked, Lahaina and other things, or Iran chose to bomb the locations that Israel wanted them to. Now, that may seem unlikely. It may seem unusual. It's worth asking, though, for more than just that they may be secretly working together, which I find highly unlikely, but certainly possible, is more so that there's one consideration that a lot of times what happens, we talked about this with Iraq and the back and forth with Trump, where oftentimes you'll have an agreement behind the narrative. We're going to bomb you out, and we're going to kill everybody if you don't stop. And we're going to not, they come over here and they speak all tough. And then behind the scenes, they go, look, let's de-escalate because neither one of us want to destroy everything. Maybe that has happened in the past. And Trump he's almost accidentally admitted that in the past. And so then they say, let us say this out loud. Let us bomb this thing that's not going to hurt anybody. And then we can all act like we got the one up and we can stop this escalation from going further. Cooler heads. You'd like to think that in some cases that might happen. It's hard to see that today with Israel driving the bus. But you could argue that the agreement could have been made, maybe even from just Trump trying to stop it all from spinning out, that they would allow Iran to bomb, and specifically these locations that Israel wants them to. It'll let them look like they got through, and they could have stopped. I'm not sure if I even think that actually lines up, but that's worth considering for the larger globalist kind of, like during COVID-19, we saw them basically work in order together, which doesn't make much sense. So it's worth considering there might be a bigger story behind this. On top of the fact that this gets into the network state, build back better discussion. But before, just the last point on this, that we can see this, the bombing locations, I think it's also worth considering that this is, I think I said that first, that it could be Israel doing this to justify these actions to be happening, but I don't know. I find this fascinating, as he writes. And I said, interesting, if true, suggests a level of cooperation, even if only a backroom deal to end the engagement, which is a factor that doesn't get enough discussion. They might be actually agreeing behind the scenes to take certain actions. That was what I was going to say too, is that let's not forget that is what Iran did bomb, which we can verify. Some of these locations, like a headquarters point, was actually very prominent, which doesn't seem to fit in with this, unless that was a lie from them, but I think we could prove for the most part these were locations that were hit. It could just be Israel's way of making it seem as if they didn't really strike anything important. All different factors. But for the point I'm going to make, consider that this is more coordination, even if it's just a backroom deal kind of thing, but it's in the interest of bombing locations that Israel can then use to rebuild in the interest of the larger agenda, and that might be happening other places in the world too. Here's the actual article you can read. It's very interesting. Now, Efrat Fengenson, who she cites in this article, says under the banner of Build Back Better, now this was on June 26, 2025, after Iranian attacks, remember, she's the former Israeli I think it was intelligence, but more, in the IDF for the most part. And she worked, it wasn't intelligence. I think it was signal. I forget. I don't want to say it if I can't remember correctly, but it wasn't just regular IDF. She had more insight, and she's been talking about how much they've lied to us right after October 7th. And she says, after Iranian attacks, under the banner of Build Back Better, Israel's advancing a plan that could force citizens to sell their homes to the state if they reject urban renewal plans. Interesting, weird overlap to what Trump's dealing with right now, even though it's sort of the opposite. There's weird overlaps happening here, and that involves BlackRock too. But it says missile damage is being used as cover for land grabs. Here's what's really happening. And she goes through kind of the overlapping points. Interesting though, right? With the Lahaina, the Maui conversation about different points within it, there's global things shifting when you really start to look at the big picture. On top of that, going into the globalist point, now we're going to get into that more so in the future, because it's going, I think it's an agenda that seems to be building more and more. Caitlin Johnstone just points out something I think is obvious right now. Trumpers were sold the story that their guy would fight the deep state, globalists, to benefit ordinary Americans. Now he's advancing, and I agree with this entirely, every CIA neocon agenda known to man in the Middle East and Latin America with the goal of global domination. I mean, what are we missing? As life in the U.S. gets worse and worse. So That's globalism. And I said, indeed, many of us, Caitlin included, were drawing attention to this long before it was the undeniable reality we see today. For those that care to look, remember this when the next chaotic partisan narrative is upon us and drowning in propaganda. This is globalism. And I point to this one I discussed back on January 13, 2025, the fake globalist resistance ushering in the globalist plan. That was January 13th. They had just gotten into power. My point was we saw the North American Union point. We saw the going for Greenland and everything else, and Jones and the rest just acting like we were looking anywhere else, even though they've been making their globalist point their entire career. That's my point. The fake globalist resistance ushering in the globalist plan. And the same point as before. That's not some undefined term. It means a power structure that wants to control the globe. It's quite easy to understand, actually. They just try to make it about Democrat things, which is it actually muddies the water, so we don't understand what it really means anymore. Also, this show I did, Trump and the Zionist globalist technocrats, which again is actually very specific, are building your new society whether you like it or not. I think it's very obvious. So here is the point about Greenland. Just a couple of them before we move on to Iran. Donald Trump, as you might have already heard, has said the fact that this is about Greenland. The fact that they landed a boat there 500 years ago doesn't mean they own the land. I can't believe he said that, as Daniel McAdams rightly points out. But the claim that God promised some people some land in the Middle East 3,000 years ago is totally kosher. It's hypocrisy. No, it's because they will side with whatever their agenda is, and they'll make up a narrative to support it. They all do it. Now, this one you might have seen. And this is Trump saying what you heard earlier, that if I don't take it, Russia's going to take it. Here's what he said.
If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will. And I'm not letting that happen. If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will take Greenland. And I am not going to let that happen.
Thanks for saying it twice in a row, Trump, because we were confused at first. What I love is leave it behind him. That's his little lapdog. It's just funny. And she's back there going, yep, that's right, correct. What he said was right. Just nod her head. Like, it's just so funny to me. They're just such mindless yes men and women. It just kills me.
They can offer you either like...
Yeah, sure. I'd love to make a deal with them. It's easier.
Yeah, isn't that easy? Yeah, we'll belligerently threaten force and then go, yeah, let's make a deal, right? Because that's his style of deal making at the barrel of a gun. Analogy, sometimes accurately. But think, why would anybody deal? Would Trump deal like that? When they go, I'm going to kill your family or we're going to make a deal. That's not making a deal. That's coercion. It's what they do. These people are pirates. And I think that's very obvious. So you might have seen this somewhere before, right? If I don't take it, somebody else will. Does that sound familiar? It should. This is a very public example from Israel.
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
Yep. And it gets much longer than that if you watch the full clip. So it's okay if I do it because if I don't, someone else will. Now realize in this conversation, though, there's no evidence or even the indication that Russia or China is trying to steal Greenland. There's no indication of that. This is just what they're claiming. Now, if they're talking about a sphere of influence, well, you're not trying to influence, which they're just trying to seize and take and control. And there's plenty of points to be made. We discussed I forget the guy's name now. He's sort of one of these insider Trump people who are already making deals to seize things in Greenland before the, apparent occupation. But you also have the example of Peter Thiel, who already made it clear he wants to use Greenland to make another network state point. Now, both are relevant. Who's to say what is the driving force, or maybe there's another one that we don't see? But these matter. A startup linked to Peter Thiel wants to build the next great city in Greenland. It's just all over the place, guys. So on that note, I'll include, this is actually just a larger, a great one that Robert put out back in January 8th of 2026, or excuse me, January 8th of this year. From Caracas to Tehran, how Trump's Venezuela invasion serves the Israel's geopolitical agenda. It's very clear. Now, on top of that, oh, wait, did I mix these up? I guess not. Anyway, I'm sorry. I thought I was going to show you some of the articles. I guess I already did before. Oh, that's right. As always, I moved them and I'm forgetting I did that. Before we get into this next section, though, so the point was about the larger conversation. It's all very clear, right? This is happening. The question is whether or not it's the driving force of the administration and whether or not it's going to be, almost forcefully supported by the administration. I think that's what's going to happen. I think we're already seeing examples of that in Honduras, in El Salvador, in, all these different locations. Seasteading has started again, where they're making these weird little pop-up ocean versions of what they're doing. And what they're talking about is reimagining, even using that term, the way our society operates. As we see the Curtis Yarvin point, as we see Mark Andreessen, who, by the way, Andreessen and Peter Thiel, and largely the supporting the Pronomos capital funding mechanism, which is almost entirely the group funding all these things all around the world in multiple different locations, and weirdly kind of making it seem as if they're not connected. There's an agenda there. Now, Andreessen was on Rogan telling you we need the good oligarchs to save us from the bad oligarchs. Democracy doesn't exist. It's all about powerful people running. And what did Stephen Miller just say? That's the way of the world. It's power makes right. And we're going to seize it. And says we don't have to listen to international niceties. That's international law he's referring to. Yet we'll point to it when they want to call out Iran because, that's honest. I'm telling you, guys, this is very obvious and people are just being dishonest about it. Now, Iran is clearly a part of this, but it has been building. They've been using this for a very long time, or rather driving at it and the narrative and building towards it. But there's oil discussions, the Strait of Hormuz. There's many different factors of building this. Realize the 7 countries, 5 years, Iran was the last. I mean, it's all been there. I've played these clips many times over. They already overthrew it. In 53, we talked about Operation Ajax. Here's Glenn Greenwald. Now, these are some important points before we get into it to recognize what they've already done, how dishonest this is. But the reality is that they're manufacturing this yet again. It's very obvious. And it's always been about trying to remove the power structure because their sphere of influence will be dramatically increased if they can control Iran, on top of the oil, on top of any number of overlapping points. As Glenn writes, the CIA declassified documents detailing how they engineered what they call a coup in Iran in 53, Operation Ajax. It was due to Iran's nationalistic desire to control their oil. Certainly seems familiar, doesn't it? It's what they're doing right now in Venezuela. And remember, they argued that this was them doing it. I mean, I don't even remember exactly what the framing was. It wasn't, all fighting for freedom like they claim today. I don't even think they had a narrative. I mean, it's important. We should look back actually to see what their actual stated objective was, or whether it was even secret at the time. My point is, Mossadegh was very supportive of the West. I've said this every time. It's actually very easy to verify. He has pictures of himself next to the Liberty Bell. He was basically trying to emulate a democratic Western society. They overthrew him because he was not willing to sell out his country to their interests, oil and the rest. And that's when the Shah came in, and that became a dictator. It became an authoritarian oligarchy dynamic, a plutocracy. And at the top, people lived very well. And they made it, they show you those images. Look how nice it was. Well, everybody else, the majority of Iranians, were living in squalor. And you can prove this. Robert's covered it. Any expert will tell you this. And then they overthrew them. Now, since 73, there's clearly a response to the West trying to take over their country. Now, that's for the Iranians to decide. Many of them support where this is. And every day there is changes happening through the democratic process in Iran. It's not hard to prove, guys. There's so much blind, they're Muslims in caves fighting with their guys. It's just, they're lying to you. Iran's highly technologically advanced. There's just so many lies. That's all for points I've made 100 times over. The point here, CIA exaggerated the government's brutality, paid armed protesters who used violence, false flag attacks, and more. All easily verifiable. It's what they're doing again today, guys. That's why he's posting this. And it says, if the West wanted a secular Iran, which is what they claim, they shouldn't have overthrown their democratically elected leader for trying to nationalize oil resources. What they put in place was an ideologically manipulative power. Now, clearly, that over-response has caused an even more, what's interesting is they talk about Iran like it's just driven entirely by religious dictate. Well, look at what Israel is doing. Look at what they're doing and act like that's not the same thing. Is it about the skin color then? It's dishonest at its core. But Operation Ajax, we covered this back in 2018. It's worth watching this show. I'm just going to give you some of the articles you can look back and show you how prolific and how clear this has been as long as I've ever been doing this. This one was a newer one. We went back over it because in 2018, the same thing was happening. They were trying to organize mass protests. They were trying to use that to overtake the country. It didn't work, but they really tried. Remember, we made the whole thing during Trump's last administration. They were making the same narratives. Iran's calling for freedom. We're going to help them. And they lied about it. And they got caught lying about it. Now they're doing it again. This is a great article from Matt Agarist, 2018. 65 years ago today, this was on the August 19th, the CIA conspired with the UK to overthrow Iran on behalf of big oil. That's the same story. Here's one from Brandon Turbeville. This is from also 2018. The Path to Persia and the ongoing plot to destroy Iran. The Path to Persia being the large document where they discuss all this. It's all very, very clear. Brookings Institute, if I remember correctly. James Corbett, 2018. How to engineer a crisis. Talking about how they've manufactured these protests. These are all very respectable people that show you the source material. It's the same thing today, guys. And you could prove this. Here's James Corbett as well, 2018, waiting to talk about the Iran protests. This one's very well done. Watch all of these if you want. Here's 2018 as well from Caitlin Johnstone. Why we should be intensely skeptical of everything you hear about Iran protests. Here, this is from Brandon Turbeville as well, also 2018. Iran protests go violent. Color revolution becoming more likely. This one from 2018, Tyler Durden, From Shahs to the CIA, the history of Western intervention in Iran, part 1. And part 2 is down below. This one from Tyler as well, 2018, Democratic Institutions, 10 lessons from history that will destroy your trust in the CIA. And one of them is Mossadegh. But it's crazy how consistently these people lie to you. And yet we just pretend like that's not the case. And of course, Robert's excellent article from January 2nd, 2026. Israel launches, and there's a whole bunch in between that. Israel launches its latest Iran revolution as Trump threatens war. And here we are. Glenn Greenwald points out on the 12th, and you saw this already, this is just to reset the point. Trump's former CIA director, who, by the way, appears to have just been given an advisory role within the administration. I haven't gone deep on that, so that might be misrepresented. That's going around. Trump's former CIA director and the largest newspapers of the Israeli media can state explicitly and clearly that the Mossad is all over the protests in Iran, and yet still people will deny it and say it's only a conspiracy theorist would believe such a crazy tale. Here is Pompeo. Happy New Year to every Iranian in the streets. Also to every Mossad agent walking beside them. Or Jerusalem Post. Mossad spurs Iran protests, says agents with demonstrators in Farsi message. Now, there was another one too, by the way. If I can get this to pop up. I think it was this one right here. Yes. Oh, well, this is the, here, check this out. Let me see if I can get the older one. They changed the title. Let's see. Or maybe I had to get the other one to find the older one. Yeah, this is the Yahoo Post about it. It says, we're with you. Remember what it was is it said they put out something about putting out there. And it wasn't just the message like this one that they put out demonstration, Farsi messages. It was fairly clear gloating about how they were manipulating it. And then they obviously recognized that was too clear. Go back to the last show. I show it on the screen. But continuing, the point is there are Mossad agents on the ground stoking this. And now what we're going to get into is the egregious amount of lies and psyops that are taking place. And of course, the usual stupid suspects like Laura Loomer out there driving the narrative forward and being embarrassed by it. So this one you might have seen. I mean, it's just so repetitive, guys. Vehicular jihad in Los Angeles. A person driving a U-Haul with a banner that says no Shah, of course, just rammed into a group of Iranian protesters in Los Angeles, which, by the way, appears to be driving, it's the same thing. It's like, we just saw this, the good, all of this. And this guy just runs up there with a sign that says no Shah and tries to kill Iranians. Why does that make sense to anybody? Or rather, people supporting Iran? If you are, it's all counterintuitive. The idea about this is question it. Consider that this could be somebody who wants the no Shah in Iran and willing to run over people in the streets because they're supporting the opposite. Or it could be literally manufactured like everything else we're seeing to drive in the idea that that's what people who want no dictator are like because they're the bad guys. Or just possible that somebody just is irrationally driving this through, or maybe somebody does it because they just want to cause an effect. All that's possible. The response is, we absolutely know this is that because this meets my agenda, which is what she's doing. Didn't investigate this, instantly posted it, shared it with what she wants you to think because that's what they do. I simply said, we can't be this easy to fool. In fact, it is quite clear most of us are not. Some, like Loomer, however, are just that stupid or that dishonest. Here is what has continued to come out, guys. Here is an example. I'm going, oh my God, look at all these Iranians in the streets protesting. It's all burning down. It's going crazy, except that was actually Los Angeles, which even the context shows you. But it doesn't matter, though. It still goes around, right? It still gets 3 million views and it still changes the conversation. And then oftentimes Twitter hides that from you anyway. It's just wild, guys. And this is just a few examples. It's everywhere. And out there, Elon Musk is sharing all of the false things. Here, you saw this one already. Debunking propaganda. You've probably seen the photo of a girl burning a picture of the Ayatollah, except that that's actually Canada. Now, look, it's still a person burning the picture, and you could argue she's Iranian, but nobody cared to prove any of it. They showed this picture and said, that's an Iranian in Iran, and look at them calling them out. That's what they all did. The Nick Sorters, Benny John, all of them. It went around, and I'm clearly, guys, it's so easy to see how it circles and filters through the same people. They don't check anything, just like Alex Jones. They just share whatever comes across that works for the narrative. Every time. Here, the Iranian, this is actually pretty funny. This guy who's got almost 300,000 views. I just spoke to an Iranian who was arrested by the Iranian government. Holy shit, I'm sick to my stomach. This evil regime must die. He goes, okay, so the Iranian government let a prisoner make an outgoing call to Israel? Because he's in Israel. Why would anybody think that makes any sense whatsoever? Anything's possible, but he's in prison. They called me and said what they're doing to him. People will buy it. People will share whatever meets their agenda. Now, on top of that, you've got the lies about how many people are being killed. And of course, Polymarket is showing you that they've 60%, all this, it's spiking for people saying that they're going to be removed from power. Clearly, and this was before the recent move. It's same with Venezuela, by the way. There's clearly people who have insight and they're allowed to basically gamble, it's insider trading for Polymarket. I guarantee you they've got somebody in the administration, they're acting on these things and making money. This one says, according to Fox News, various reports, we'll get into where those are coming from and that they don't check, are showing that the number of protesters in Iran killed by the government has risen at least as high as 2,000. This comes as Polymarket shows a surge of 62% that Khamenei loses his position. Well, guess what, guys? And this is easily verifiable, and this goes back long before this point. The huge death toll in Iran being splashed all over the media are sourced to an outfit in Fairfax, Virginia, called Human Rights Activists in Iran. Right. That is overwhelmingly funded by the U.S. government. Wah, wah, every time, guys. What is their methodology? Is it credible? Who cares? Just pump the big numbers out because nobody's checking any of it. They're citing the same group, as you can see in every one of them, left or right, CNN or Fox News. How do we not see this? Then you could prove that they're being funded by the government. It's clear, guys. But on top of that, let's do this one first. They're already starting to delete these things. Eyewitness to BBC World Service, over 10,000 dead as Iranian forces unleash automatic rifles. BBC reports verified death toll of nearly 500 in Iran protests, not over 10,000. Now, even that is being disputed, but the reality is there are violent gangs, as Robert's proven himself, who are not acting with the Iranian people, that most of the Iranian people are calling out, that the unions that supported the protest originally are calling out and saying, look, these are foreign protesters out there with their masks on, like we're seeing in our country too, by the way. And they're not, and they're raiding, I'll show you some more examples. Going into buildings, which by the way, now suddenly is supported by everybody else, or they're beating police in the streets. They're burning Iranian flags. I've shown you all this, guys. This is not what the Iranian people are doing. It's very easy to prove, and I've done this for a long time on this very topic. And so, even if it is 500, it's pretty clear where that's coming from, but you can look into it for yourself. But they're lying about the numbers. If they have to lie about 10,000 and delete the tweet, then it's pretty clear that they're not checking anything, guys. The tweet deleted after 1.6 million views. It's what they do. Dave DeCamp talks about Barak Ravid, who, by the way, is a former IDF intelligence officer, who also just happens to write for Axios. And he had this to say about this platform a few years ago. After the Mossad is using this media outlet quite regularly for its information war. Cut forward to today, that same outlet, Iran International English, see, it's our point, guys. At least 12,000 people were killed. 1.4 million views. Right. So just to be clear again, this is the very platform this Israeli intelligence officer told you was being used to manipulate for the Mossad. And I've pointed out this platform before. It is not about Iranian, it is about propaganda for the global agenda. It's very clear that these people get caught lying regularly. Dave DeCamp says this person has already told you this platform is used to lie. And remember, these numbers have already been pulled back by most people that have claimed it. Here is today. Right, so after these have already been pushed back, after these numbers have been shown to be completely based in, whole cloth pulled from Israeli intelligence, which is largely where it's already been shown to come from. Here comes Mario Nawfal. Today, after yesterday, it was already being pulled back by other platforms. Iran killed 12,000 people based on their own report. That's just not true. That's Iran International he's pointing to right there. You see, that's not Iran's report. These people are children in this conversation, guys. Mario Nawfal is a gigantic influencer with 2.8 million followers that came out of literally nowhere after Elon Musk took over this and just these people are parroting what they're told. And as David Camp writes, sigh slop. It's just embarrassing. But this circular manipulation, they benefit even when they're seen to be lying, guys. The same thing for politicians, by the way, in the U.S. government. Here's CNN. And I made this point about Starlink. It's not even hard to see at this point. Starlink is not being given to people that need it. Starlink is being used to be given in war zones every single time. But they make the argument it's about Trump giving the Iranian people the Starlink so they can get through their government. Well, in many cases, it's the U.S. government and Israel that are attacking their infrastructure. But Musk gives them Starlink? You stand back and look when this happens. This is a war measure. They're using Starlink not just for communication. They're using it for conducting war. And it's not even secret. Look at every time there's a conflict like this. Venezuela, Iran. What do you hear? Elon Musk, well, here's the Starlink. Because it's an extension of the Department of War. You can easily prove that. How he's a contractor for the military. But here's even CNN. Access to Elon Musk's Starlink internet service is now free in Iran as regime continues brutal crackdown. You notice the ubiquitous narrative coming from left and right? You need to pay attention to what that shows you. So they stop him from using this is what they're claiming. I think right now it's very difficult to verify whether they are because they recognize that it's being used against them or it's a narrative being made up. It's hard to say. My point is simply that this happens every time there's a war agenda. Elon Musk swings in with the Starlink and it's used to conduct warfare. As they're showing you here, Iran's intelligence has seized a large shipment of illegal Starlink devices and other advanced electronics meant for espionage and sabotage. That's how they frame it. But I think we can prove this is how it's also used, even if it's being used to help people. Or rather, help meaning give them access to internet while they're also attacking their internet. And it says the shipment came from a country in the region and was meant to be distributed in unrest-hit provinces. Some of the equipment was also intended for espionage near military and missile sites for the next war. And as Daniel McAdams writes, this is a full-fledged CIA Mossad operation. I 100% agree. But remember, this is being pointed to as some unknown group sent this. Well, we know now it was Elon Musk because that's coming out right now about Elon Musk sending Starlink. So it's all surreptitious, guys. On top of that, Trump came out with this today. Now, we've already shown you other examples of him going, go out there, keep protesting, go do it, whatever, right? Literally spurring this on. Here's what he said today. You have to realize, let me actually show you this first. While he's doing this right now, you look at what they're doing to these areas, guys. These are not, even if you want to claim these are Iranian people just protesting out of frustration, they're destroying neighborhoods and burning down buildings. Isn't that what you then call in this country terrorism? Is it only justified when you're on their side, apparently? Yeah, these people, it's always hypocrisy. There's nothing sacred. They'll support the worst thing in the world if they want to, and they'll attack the most benign thing in the world if they need to. It's always how this works. So Trump came out and said today, Iranian patriots, keep protesting. Take over your institutions. That's going to come back to bite him, I think. I mean, come on, guys, really? Like the January 6th point was, and I agree, it wasn't as clear about him going, go and do this and do that. And in many cases, he did kind of walk it back. But there's cases you could show different parts where he was seemingly spurring it on. But it wasn't like that. He didn't go in and take the White House. He just literally screamed, go take these buildings. How is that not considered outside interference? I mean, what would they do if there was people in this? You know the answer to this already. It's not even worth pointing out anymore. It's obvious that he would be losing his mind if they were driving this and there was Iranian government going, these protesters go there and do this. What do you think he would call that? Why? And then ask yourself, why would Iran then not engage them as if they're working with the outside forces? Now, I'm not saying it's okay for them to shoot people in the streets, but you have to understand the way this is going down, and that we're not talking about random Iranians running up and doing things. We're talking about organized forces who are acting in a military sense. There's plenty of evidence out there. Save the names of the killers and abusers, he said. What does that even mean? Save the names? So now you're going to take at face value the Iranians you later point to who say the government hurt us? That's a lazy setup for what's coming next. They will pay a big price, he says. So Israel's going to say, here's what we found out. And they're going to use it as justification. I have canceled all meetings with Iranian officials until the senseless killing of protesters stops. Help is on the way. Make Israel or Iran, you could choose, great again. President Donald Trump, help is on the way? It's just so blatant, guys. It's all very obvious. And this is what Netanyahu and Lindsey Graham have been salivating about for their entire careers. So here he is saying it again. And this is just, I can't believe he made this point today. I mean, in this situation, I believe it was today or yesterday. Here's what he said.
And with our extremely successful operation in Venezuela earlier this month, that number soon is going to go lower because we're going to have a lot more energy. We're going to have a lot more, as opposed to a country that's going to be totally shut down. No fuel, no gasoline. And it's, they say it's got more than Saudi Arabia. Who knows?
I mean, you have to really, before we even get into the part that I want to point to, think about what he just said right there. So you've continued to scream that you're doing this for Venezuelans, right? We're saving the country. We're going to make them money. It's going to be all great. Well, no, you're just literally exploiting this and stealing money. You just said you are taking it. And then you point to Venezuela as a country that has no resources because, let me play it again. So he's literally saying they're going to have nothing because what? They're not listening to you? Didn't you just make sure Delcy Rodriguez was in power by not letting Gonzalez, even though you don't have the authority to do any of that? Listen again.
With our extremely successful operation in Venezuela earlier this month, that number soon is going to go lower because we're going to have a lot more energy. We're going to have a lot more.
Yeah. So meaning taking theirs. How can you, as this country, how can Americans or just the government have more resources? Aren't you talking about the process? Aren't you talking about, drilling and then selling the oil, which will benefit them? No, guys, he's making it very clear, as he tends to do, because he just doesn't seem to think it through. You're stealing. You're taking and benefiting this country, or your corporations and your government.
Earlier this month, that number soon is going to go lower because we're going to have a lot more energy. We're going to have a lot more, as opposed to a country that's going to be totally shut down. No.
Okay. Now, he could be in Iran too. Either way, what he's arguing is simply that, look, my point is he says something about Venezuela next, which I think makes that clear. But all you're really saying is because of what we're doing. We are the ones acting this way. We're sharing. They're not even trying to hide that anymore. They used to pretend that sanctions were not really what was doing that, but Iran was making their people suffer because of it. No, your sanctions are starving people to death. Your sanctions are making people die of, in the middle of winter. It happens every time. Listen to what he says next.
It's going to be totally shut down. No fuel, no gasoline. And it's, they say it's got more than Saudi Arabia. Who knows?
The point is both Iran and Venezuela have major oil reserves. He's just making it clear of what they're doing, exploiting these countries.
And by the way, to all Iranian patriots, keep protesting, take over your institutions if possible.
Take over your institutions if possible. What do you mean? You're going to walk in there and just go, hey, we're going to step in and get out of the way. That means violence, guys. That means guns. How else do you think they're going to take institutions from the government power? He's literally calling for guerrilla warfare. It's just so obvious. And it's really crazy that he's doing this publicly. This is why I think that he's being either driven, not realizing it makes him look this bad, or working on behalf of somebody else. You stand back and ask yourself, why would he be this clumsy and obvious about it? These are crimes. No matter how, even if their narratives are true, these are crimes. He's just being very obvious. This is destroying this country. It's splintering his own support base. Who does that benefit?
And save the name of the killers and the abusers that are abusing you. You're being very badly abused. If the numbers are right. Now, I hear
if the numbers are right. Did you love that? So maybe not, though. Maybe it's all false, but I'm going to keep saying it anyway.
Different sets of numbers. I hear numbers. Look, one death is too much.
Oh.
But I hear much lower.
There it is. One death is too much. And what do you think everyone's saying? I guess not in America, though. Right? What about Renee Good? Was a protester. You killed her. So if that happened in Iran, he'd be using it to invade Iran. One's too much. Doesn't matter how. Doesn't go into the context. Invading institutions. And so they shoot one of the people that are literally invading an institution like you would. And that's too much. Not one. But over here, we're killing people in the streets. Deporting U.S. citizens. We're detaining them. Come on, guys. I'm telling you, willful ignorance is running the day right now. That's ridiculous. And as Jordan points out, What about protesters in the United States? Max Blumenthal points this out. I showed you the imagery just of the areas there. Look at this. This is crazy. He says rioters burned the marketplace and the Iranian city of Rast to a crisp. Netanyahu, Trump, and every other leader of the collective West has endorsed this. They just pretend it's not happening. It does all peaceful protest because they don't care. They'll call peaceful protest violent over here. They'll call violent protest peaceful when they want to. Both sides do it. This is simply a larger agenda that both sides are involved in and both support. Of course, he says they are a model of tolerance toward protesters in their own cities, right? He also points this out. This is an Iranian reporter, by the way. It's worth following. She said, rioters attacked a bus and torched it in a city in Iran. In this newly released CCTV footage, it shows how a group of rioters attacked a bus and threw Molotov cocktails inside of it. These are all masked rioters. These are not protesters. This is what they're framing as peaceful protest. They're instigating violence to create a problem so they'll respond to then use that to point to Iran. It's what they do every time. And you could verify it for yourself. Date of incidents unknown, likely from Saturday, 10th January. As he says, we are with you, not only from a distance and verbally, we are with you in the field. Israel's Mossad to Iranian anti-government rioters. Yes, it's probably Mossad for all we know. Now, and just to rapidly finish this up, because I went much longer than I wanted to, Decentered News points out what Charlie Kirk was saying about Lindsey Graham before he was killed. Here's what Lindsey Graham is saying today. To the Iranian people, your long nightmare is soon to come to coming to a close. Your bravery, determination, you get it. Trump is making Iran great again. Okay, wait a minute. Is America great again? Or are we still going through that transition? So if you're going to fight to make Iran get great again, then that means America second. Let's be real about what we're talking about. But he's going, we're going to come save you from whatever. Okay. So the point is, that's exactly what Trump is doing. This is important. Charlie Kirk, before he was killed, was saying things like this. Lindsey Graham and the neocons push for regime, calling it pathologically insane. Remember, the Iran point was what had an issue with Trump. Apparently, Trump got mad at him. Apparently, he brought it up, and the Zionist people attacked him for it. And that's when he started to realize, I think, the Zionism-Israel conversation. He thought attacking Iran was insane. He did not think that was America first. And they hated him for it. So he also points out Lindsey Graham is so consistently out of his mind, it's hard to even comprehend. Recognize he's saying this because of what he's saying about Iran. Trump is saying the same thing right now. So all of these, Iran is hugely diverse. It's a massive country. Do the people agitating for war even know that? Because let's be clear, regime change is war. This is Charlie Kirk. You're talking about a country of 2.5 times the size of Texas, has 90 million people, and was an ancient and great power with well over a dozen ethnic groups. Who's going to run the country? Lindsey Graham? You see, guys, this is, if you support Charlie Kirk and you supported him, and you think that he's some diehard supporter of what they're doing, you don't understand what he was talking about. I think it's important to realize this. And he goes off about quite a bit of it. Now, lastly, to finish, here's what Trump was saying at the age of 34. And simply just to show you that this is who he has always been. And you could read his books if you want to waste your time, and you could read about what he told you about who he is and how he acts. It's what he's doing. What you're seeing in this front is the political front like they all have. About the Christian fighting for freedom and saving the country. They're doing what they've always done. And they know that's how they get certain people to blindly support them. That's my opinion. But you tell me this is not exactly what they're now doing. And now what he's claiming is we're saving Iranians. Nope, this is what he
gone in there with troops, etc., and brought our boys out. I absolutely feel that, yes. I don't think there's any question, and there's no question in my mind. I think right now would be an oil-rich nation, and I believe that we should have done it, and I'm very disappointed that we didn't do it, and I don't think anybody would have held us in abeyance. I don't think anybody...
Yeah, to illegally seize the resources of that country. That's what he's saying. He said the same thing about Iraq. He said the same thing about Venezuela. It's like we can't listen to what he says, and we engage with what his blind yelling followers have to say about what he actually means. That's just stupid.
Everybody would have been angry with us, and we had every right to do it at the time.
Nope, it would be illegal.
I think we've lost the opportunity.
Right. So it's okay because we wanted it. That's what rich people do, guys. They do what they want. And I shouldn't say it like that, but in cases like we're talking about, people who abuse their power, the wealth, they don't even have, I don't think they can even reflect half the time on what normal people's lives are like. But to finish on these last 2 points, here is what he said back on the 12th. effective immediately. Any country doing business with the Iranian Republic will pay a tariff of 25%. Wonder what cause? Because this is financial terrorism. And this has been going on for a really long time. That's what sanctions are. And he goes, and on any and all business being done with the United States of America. So basically, if you deal with Iran, you will pay 25% more, or rather 25% tariff, which, we've gone over that before, on everything you deal with the United States. Do you realize that's hurting American interests just to make a point about Iran because Israel wants that? I mean, just guys, wake up. This is not about America. He says, this order is final and conclusive. Why? Because he posted on Truth Social. Thank you for your attention. Sarah Abdallah says, Trump cares so much about the people of Iran that he's imposing new sanctions that will starve them and deprive them of medicine. It's not debatable. It happens every single time. They lie. Pompeo got caught lying about, we're not stopping medicine. And then it was very clearly proven that they were stopping medicine. They're doing this to hurt the Iranian people, to drive them to revolt against their government. It's what they do. So you can't claim to fight for Iranian people if you're hurting Iranian people. That's just dumb, like everything else they're doing. And as George Galloway points out, to overlap with Israel to finish, to be fair, they never hide their intentions. Israeli media, when Iran falls, we will strike everywhere in the country, as we did in Syria. I mean, come on, guys. Which is what they did, as we reported. They bombed all over the place. They were ethnically cleansing. They're still doing that. Murdering Christians and Alawites and just about anyone they wanted with ISIS patches on their arms. It's really not even secret, guys. So when they're telling you on Israeli media that as soon as we take over Iran, that we will bomb everywhere in the country like we did last time. I mean, this is my point, guys. How is that not the most obvious thing in the world? Not everyone sees it. But with what's going on and how many people are starting to point to these things, because of independent media driving this hard enough to keep it in the conversation, honest people see it. Honest people can recognize their costs have gone up. Honest people can recognize that government's growing and costs are going, or spending is going up. It's just self-evident. So it's a question about whether you're honest or whether you fight for the team. You can decide for yourself. I'm of the mind that it's very clearly the majority of people that care. Otherwise, they wouldn't pretend to be what they tell you they are. But keep fighting, guys. Keep calling this out. Spread the information, because frankly, I think you're winning. And that's worth considering at a dark time that we're in, because as always, they want you to feel like everything's it's getting so much worse to make you lean back into their support, to hope that they'll fix. I mean, it's basically under a form of sanctions. They want us to suffer, so we then go, please stop the suffering. That's what sanctions are. It's very simple. But thank you for tuning in, guys. Thank you for your support. And, in the show notes, you can find that Give, Send, Go. If you want to donate to this show to split, for Derek and I to both benefit from, which I welcome and I support. Or you can donate directly to Derek in general if you want to support him, and I recommend you do. Or you can donate directly to TLAV and support all of us through that. But ultimately, guys, we need your support as always. But as always, we will continue doing this. As I say every time, it's not really in our interest to make that point, because it's not, if you are just like, the point is that we're going to continue to do the work. And if you want this to get better and grow and expand, which is what I want this to, like I said many times in the past, I want to drive this to a point to where even with the suppression and even with the censorship and everything else, that when we want to put something out in the conversation, it can't be denied, that it's seen by everybody. And they can disagree with it, but it's something that has to be considered. That's how you change the conversation. That's what I think we're building towards. And with your support, we can get there. Thank you for being here. I love you all. As always, question everything. Come to your own conclusions. Stay vigilant.